Wake up. It's time for Primal Scream.
Hey, welcome back to the Primal Scream. I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
And today we have...
I was going to say hi.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
That's okay.
Perfectly fine.
We have Chad Canfield with us, otherwise known as the Can Man.
Yes, hi.
And Chad is... You are... Someone was trying to ask me the other day, like, so what's he do? I go, he's kind of an enigma.
Yeah.
He's got a lot of hats he wears.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Very nicely said.
Thanks.
A lot of hats.
Can pull one out once in a while.
Well, my day job, I work for a company that does like hospital customer service, collections, financial assistance kind of thing. So that's what I've been doing for like 10 years. And so I talk on the phone all day to patients that have questions about their hospital bills. I was a trainer for them for a while and traveling all over. But with the family, just was rough. But ever since I was a kid, I was into broadcasting. I mean, high school, junior high. My grandpa used to have a ham radio. And
cool.
So we had a 200-foot tower in our backyard. My grandpa's backyard, which is my house now. We bought it after he died.
Wow, that's a big tower.
It's gone now.
Oh.
Yeah, it's gone now. But I was always around radio stuff. Getting out of high school, one of my good friends was a DJ at KQCR, and so I did some internship stuff there, helped with some production on some commercials and different things, and but really I wasn't on the air other than you could hear me in a couple commercials back in like 80s, 90s.
Oh, that's neat.
So that's how you got started. But then you go into your Facebook page and you Google Chad Canfield and you find all these different things. You make props.
Yeah.
You've created haunted mazes.
Haunted attractions.
Haunted attractions.
Yeah.
You teach classes.
Yeah.
Improv, comedy,
Yeah.
acting.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I do a lot of
hats. I do a lot of stuff. I'm just a creative person, I guess, is the way I see it. I don't know. I go back like to my childhood when I started getting, my mom would scare me for fun and kind of twisted me a little bit. And I had a cousin, Kim, who, when I was very young, was working for the JC's haunted house locally.
Sure.
So she, back when it was at Co College where the Co softball field is now, there was a old orphanage that was just the most amazingly awesome, scary, creepy building.
It sounds scary just saying an old orphanage across the street. That sounds scary all by itself.
No, I mean it was there in where the Co softball field is in the same right behind the football field.
Gotcha.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
So yeah, it was right there, and it was creepy. It had multiple floors, and so at an early age, I kind of got into the art of making a haunted attraction. And as I got older, that kind of went away. Then I went to high school, and I'm really a big wuss when it comes to that stuff, the real stuff, myself. So I've had some pretty scary things happen in my life. I've seen some scary things, that kind of helped make me the person I am today. But
are we talking ghost stories?
Well, I've seen ghosts. I mean, I could tell you ghost stories, but no, I've seen the real thing. There's no ghost story that will compare to seeing a friend's, stuff all over the house after they've been shot in the face.
Okay, that is
so.
No.
So the reason I kind of got into making props and stuff, I when I first opened up my haunted attraction, it was called the Canfield's Frightmare Forest behind Xavier High School. I didn't want to do anything from movies. I didn't want to have Freddy. I didn't want to have Jason. I didn't want to have Pinhead from Hellraiser. I didn't want to have
stereotypical.
Yeah, I didn't want to have that. I didn't. I wanted to do something all my own, all original, and so I started creating my own thing. So I learned a little bit about magic, illusions, kind of how David Copperfield pulled off cutting a guy in half, or himself in half, for that matter. Those different things I learned. I learned kind of a little bit about the art of that stuff. And then I kind of got into the design of the creepy things and monsters and stuff. But when I saw my friend's blood everywhere and brains and stuff because he got shot in the face, it really had a major effect on me personally. I could not handle gore in a movie. And to this day, I still, when I drive down the road where his house is, his house is still there. I cannot look at the house. I have to turn my head the other way because I don't want to see that house. I took that PTSD, and instead of running from it like I did for a few years, I used that as my catalyst for starting taking my creativity, because I've always drawn and done, little photography things and always done creative things growing up. But I took that and I took my love for the haunted attractions and the illusions and things. And I met a guy named Kevin Alvey who owns a business called Gore-galore. And he has got one of the biggest haunted attraction prop making, fabricating companies in the country. Gore-galore, Google it. It's cool. Well, Kevin Alvey taught a class at a trade show called Transworld about corpsifying skeletons, okay? Making what looks like burnt bodies and scary things. And I make all kinds of that stuff. I learned, though, the basics of how to do it by watching him. He taught it. He even sells a kit on how you can corpsify a skeleton. There used to be there's a company that's still out there called Anatomical Chart. Okay. That sells skeletons to medical schools. They're plastic. They also sell the real thing, but the ones we would buy, when you make in manufacturing plastic, stuff gets misshapen. Mm-hmm. It just is like scratch and dent, fourth quality type stuff. Well, they would sell those to the haunted attraction industry for skeletons in their haunted houses. Because really, who cares if a skeleton's perfect when you're going to be putting gunk and crap all over it to make it look
or screaming.
Or screaming, exactly. Yeah. So I would get these skeletons, and I would buy the latex and equipment that I would use to make the monsters through Kevin. And so I taught myself with his brief 1-hour class that I took how to really take what he taught me and make them look very real. And so I took that, and the class that Chuck's niece took this past fall was just me going, okay, I want to do this again, but I want to share it with other people, because every time I do it, they're like, how the heck do you do that? Well, let me show you. Make a few bucks at the same time. So,
and you're referring to Chuck Kavanaugh.
Chuck Kavanaugh, who was on a few episodes ago.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I love that. On your Facebook page, or even on the Can Man Show website. There, if you scroll down to the bottom, there's pictures of your class and what your students had created.
Yeah.
Are any of those your masks, or they're all your students' masks?
The one with the green, if you look at the pictures on there, the one with the green moss on the side, my daughter and I made that together in the class. So that one is mine.
Cool. And how old's your daughter?
I have two daughters and a son. The oldest daughter, who was at the parade on St. Patrick's Day, Zoe, she just turned 11.
Awesome.
And so she's the one that made the mask.
We made it together.
That's awesome.
Cool.
Yeah, she did the basic layering the goop on the skull, and I kind of refined it a little bit, made it look cooler.
So besides which I love Halloween, there's a whole...
It's his favorite holiday.
There's this amazing thing that you can create, and for a while there I thought about doing body casts and body molds.
Yeah, life casting. I've studied it, but I haven't really done a whole lot of it. I almost was able to do one for Rocky Horror. Some guys did Rocky Horror downtown for CSPS this last Halloween, but they ended up going with another kid, and I guess it didn't turn out as well as they wanted. It's like he used like paper mache. I was going to do a life cast of this person, but really, it's expensive to do. I mean, it's very cost prohibitive. So for a small production like that, it just wasn't in their budget to be able to do what I could do. And I was not charging any extra. So it was going to cost like close to $500 for me to do this head for them, complete with hair and eyebrows and, just to make it look real.
Right.
And if you're doing it all yourself, that's going to be hard. I think I've seen plenty of things via Hollywood stuff where they're putting individual hairs on arms, and that would, they have a crew to do all that.
When you're punching that in, it does take a while, but there's tricks that from a distance, if you're not seeing the thing right up close,
right,
you can you can kind of layer it on, and like we do when I make my heads, I kind of do some layering of hair. Basically, I'm just gluing patches of hair on, and then putting a layer, like starting at the neck and working my way up to the top of the hair.
Like shingling a house.
Exactly like shingling a house. But there's like a good inch or so, between the different layers. But unless you're pulling the thing up by the hair,
right,
you're not going to be able to
You're
tell.
not going to see it. Okay.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. But as I was saying, though, I got into it, and then I realized making those things was really just kind of therapy for me, for my PTSD. That's really, really what it ended up being. So, thank you. But yeah, it's doing it has kind of been that. But then in high school and things, I did theater and stuff too. So
do you have any beer over there?
Yeah, I do.
Oh, beer!
I didn't want to confine you, Chad. You can have beer too if you like. You're more than welcome to have a beer if you want.
I am quite all right for right now. Thank you, though.
Just a dose.
So I met you guys for the first time yesterday, and I know you were in the military, and I know you kind of do some stuff that is kind of outside the realm of things that we talk about on the show.
Yeah.
But so kind of tell me a little bit about you guys. I mean, you're from the area?
Well, yeah. We I grew up here in Cedar Rapids.
I came back to Iowa from California when I was about 8, and then I spent the rest of my life traveling between my parents, between California and here, back and forth.
I kind of like to think of Todd as a gypsy, so to speak.
That's cool.
His teenage years were very gypsy.
And I had a very unique childhood. My father built a teepee when I was, 4 or 5.
Yeah.
A full-size teepee that he built all by hand himself. We lived in the Sierra Valley Mountains for about a year, right outside Lake Tahoe. And then when he and his wife at the time decided to move back to Iowa, because that was I was like 5th grade.
So you lived in this teepee?
Yeah, I lived in a teepee in the mountains, and then we bought some property here outside Cedar Rapids.
Yeah,
and we lived in the teepee there for about 2 years, and then he hand built a house for us,
a straw house. Well, don't forget the straw house.
I didn't want to make it too complicated.
Well,
so yes,
there's a lot of
so I like you. That's crazy. So
it is crazy.
You've had kind of a crazy childhood, family life as
well. Yeah, I give my dad a lot of shit because I really, really were just jerked around everywhere for quite a while.
Yeah,
but I have had a really unique life that I wouldn't trade in for anything kind of thing. And it, like you said, it kind of makes who you are.
It does. I mean, the stuff that you go through in life kind of makes you who you are today. Mm-hmm. I mean, and I would not change a bit of it. Well, I mean, I could, but I mean, if I could, I might. But then again, I kind of like who I am.
Sure.
So why change it?
Well, if you could remove some of the obviously horrible things that you've had to see, that would probably wouldn't change you necessarily too much drastically. I wouldn't think, but we can.
I didn't mean to go right into that downer weirdness.
No, hey, we're blown out of it.
Telling you,
no, we're good.
Telling you how kind of how I got to where I am. But
absolutely.
Do you think that you would have, without that experience, do you think you would have found as much of a passion for prop making and all that without that experience?
I wouldn't necessarily say I have a passion for it, though. I mean, because if I had a passion for it, I'd be wanting to do it all the time. And I guess I like it, but it's just, I don't know, I like to do other things. I guess I just roll with it. So if I'm in the middle of something, I have ADD, okay? So like focus, squirrel. That's kind of me. So I can focus on something and I learn a skill and I really like it and I can use it later. And it's kind of like I have a bunch of junk in my basement, right? And I'm not a hoarder by any means, but I have like nuts and bolts and bits of hose and different things that, when you look at it, it's junk, right? But when you have that moment of inspiration, that creative moment where you want to make something, I have the stuff I need.
Perfect.
So that's kind of, I don't focus on the prop making, but I can, and I'm, not to toot my own horn, but I'm pretty damn good at it. Good enough that people have noticed and asked me to do things for like shows at TCR, like a West Side Story. I have my own recipe for stage blood. So when they did West Side Story,
that's awesome.
Yeah, I have my own recipe for stage blood, and when they did West Side Story, I made Hollywood-style blood bags, so when you got stabbed, you squeezed it, the blood that exploded, and it looked like you got stabbed. So it's it's not as difficult as you think, but because they had white shirts, they had to wash the clothes every night. But I made them make mine with like a detergent, so the blood actually is like
Part
laundry
of
soap.
Oh.
So, yeah.
Well, shit, look at the big brain over here. That's a good idea.
Well,
Yeah.
you know, when you were talking about, when we've been talking about the prop building and everything else, what do you think of, and when you said the $500 for the head, kind of made my eyebrows blow back a little bit.
But I'm not talking just like the alginate, I'm talking all the materials.
Full blown, done product.
Done product.
But have you seen the show on Sci-Fi, Face Off?
Oh, yeah.
I love it. My wife and I love that show.
I love it, too.
The fact, what they can create, all the different ideas, just so imaginative. But then I think every once in a while, holy shit, the money that must go into this.
The materials used to create the stuff on Face Off is very, very expensive. Very expensive, almost to the point of it being cost prohibitive for anybody just to do it on your own. Back in the old days, like when Dick Smith and a lot of the guys would do makeup creation, they were experimenting. They would do stuff when they were learning, instead of using latex and things, they would use like pie crusts. And a lot of like the blood and gore in like the old zombie movies, Romero stuff, is like food products. It's not expensive makeup that the equipment that you buy, because a lot of it didn't exist at the time.
Right.
Those guys ended up creating it, but they would just use like pie filling and pig guts and whatever they could get their hands on.
It wasn't like the shower scene in Psycho. Wasn't it like chocolate syrup? Because it was black and white, so they didn't have to have anything red.
Actually, a lot of the blood in the old black and white movies was like chocolate syrup or mud.
Oh, really?
Yeah, just depended on what you were doing. So, frosting.
Well, I think anything that the talent that goes into doing something that adds to the illusion, to me, it just adds another layer to it. And so even if it's the blood for West Side Story, I think 60 Minutes or CBS Sunday Morning had a gentleman on there that does a lot of stuff for Hollywood. And he had some actress in there, and he has 3 or 4 walls that are like 20 feet high are castings of actors' faces.
Oh, yeah.
So no matter what movie they're in, he can make a head of them. So there's Samuel L. Jackson, there's William Shatner. It's everybody you can imagine's on that wall. And it showed him doing something with some gal while they were there. And I right away got claustrophobic when I was watching them put this stuff all over their face to make her casting. That looked really intense and a little scary.
In fact, I almost know there's guys in the industry that have these casts of people's face, and then they share them with their friends in the industry. A couple years ago, I was in the Bahamas, and I met this guy who worked on Yoda in Star Wars, but he has this little museum and his little thing. His little shop there, because that's how he makes his money. Tourists come, and then they go, "Oh, it's the Star Wars guy." But he has all these face casts of all these people. He had Michael Jackson. He had people that he. Why would he have like Vincent Price? Vincent Price. But then my buddy who owns the Ravens Grin Inn in Mount Carroll, Illinois, he has a Vincent Price death mask too. A casting of but it was his death mask, and so he had kind of his skin was loose on his neck, so he had kind of a waddle. So his wife made him cover up the waddle, but he's got it on display in his haunted attraction in Mount Carroll in his little waiting room. So yeah, it's the same cast though that I saw in St. Vincent. So
very cool. And I think that some of that stuff is, like you said, Star Wars is so iconic. My brother, and I can't remember why he went to Skywalker Ranch, but he went to Skywalker Ranch for something with a friend who was doing some, I think, voiceover work for Titan AE cartoon back in the day.
Love Titan AE.
Yeah, so my brother got to sit in the big room and watch the movie with the timers and everything on it so they could see how it looked. But he said at one point he was waiting, and he was sitting in an area waiting, and then he just kind of got up and started walking around, and there's like glass cases everywhere, and then like the gold what do you call it, the thing from Raiders of the Lost Ark where he switches
the idol.
The idol, the gold idols in the thing, the originals, like lightsabers are there.
Yeah.
Yoda's full-size figure that they use in the movies. They're just kind of like spaced all over. And my brother's like, I'm just walking around going, holy shit, this is all the real stuff.
Yeah.
And it has that moment. And then a security guard found him because he's like, excuse me, sir, why are you walking around here? He's like, oh, I'm waiting for my friend. You shouldn't be walking around here. Go have a seat in that chair.
No,
over
that
there.
actually sounds like it'd be like close to Lucas's office, because I've seen pictures of Skywalker Ranch, and that idol is somewhere close to George's office.
Is it?
I thought.
Okay.
But maybe I could be way wrong. But
At the same time, that kid, who's the kid who played Anakin as an older Christopherson? I prefer his name. The kid
Hayden Christensen.
There you go. My brother met him because he was coming in to do a reading before they did the next Star Wars movie.
Yeah.
And got to meet him and said he had just done Life as a House that had been really popular. So
That movie makes me cry every time I watch it.
we just had a conversation
about
with
that.
Tammy Jason.
Yeah.
Because she made me cry twice while we were here. And then I was telling her about the moment in the movie theater when that hit me with that movie.
You're freaking bawling.
It was so
my God.
horrible. It was horrible. I don't have to relive what I talked about, but I just had a moment where I just lost it completely. It was terrible because it was just a really heavy movie.
I know you guys kind of talk off filter, right?
Sure.
Do you guys ever find yourself crying at movies and then your wife like calls you a big pussy?
Oh, all the time.
Big time.
The Time Traveler's Wife. I bawl every time I watch Time Traveler's Wife. In fact, my wife will not be in the room.
I mean, you don't have to turn in your man card if you cry in a movie.
No.
By any means.
No,
Are you comfortable with that?
I'm thinking that my wife would never say that to me, but I have a feeling she thinks that.
No, my wife would say that to me.
Yeah, your wife would say it directly to your face. My wife is a little more thoughtful.
Really? I just poured water down my lap, so
You're
That's
right.
okay.
It's
Pissed
okay.
myself.
You're good.
Sorry, not that you can see that on the show.
No, we definitely. Even people I work with know that I am like Mr. Softy. People start talking about things that are really heavy and intense. Oh, I'm a done. All my tears well up, my eyes well up. It's just bad news.
Yeah, I don't even know what we were saying
Looking
exactly.
at you, I mean, I could see it in your eyes. I
Sure.
could see it, but looking at you guys, see, I'm a big marshmallow. You guys are like rock hard statue monster men. I mean, you guys, would, if I walked between you into a bar, I'd look like I'd be the head of the mob, and you guys would be my enforcers. I mean, seriously,
I like that.
When I was sitting at the table yesterday for breakfast with you guys,
Yeah, that was fun.
I felt like the Don, just kind of sitting there, and then
Dude,
you guys were the muscle.
if we would have been bringing you food,
Yeah.
and you were just sitting there,
Well, then I would have thought you were a server.
cutting
But-
stuff up.
But yeah, no. If you were tasting it before I ate it, then
There you go.
Yeah, I got it.
Nice. Yes, these biscuits and gravy are just fine.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself.
We were talking about a little bit that sci-fi show, Face Off, and
Right.
and the prop building, and it's one thing to put the money into the products to make the live cast or anything. It's a whole nother subject when you're like, I'm going to finish this.
Yeah.
The painting, the airbrushing. Are you good at the coloring? Are you good at putting hair in, like what you were
I'm
saying?
good at hairing things, but when it comes to some of the painting and coloring, I'm all right. I mean, there are people that are way better than me, way better. But I'm kind of I learn something, then I learn some more, and then I learn different techniques to make those techniques better. And then I'll be doing something completely non-related, and then I'll find a way to make it relate to what I was doing. So,
awesome.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I could do that instead of this and make that better. But it's just, I learned by watching other people do things and then actually doing it myself. And, sometimes I'll get a wild hair and I'll decide just to make a prop, just because I want to. Other times people are like, hey, I'm doing this show at Brucemore. I need an axe handle that I can hit somebody with that they're not going to be like really hurt. So they did a show at Brucemore a few summers ago, and they needed an axe handle, and I made an axe handle. It looked like a freaking axe handle. It looked like solid wood, but it was foam, and you could hit somebody and use it over and over again. Yeah, it was awesome. They got lost in the flood, I think.
Oh, I hate hearing
Probably
about stuff
floated
like that.
away.
Floated away. Somebody found, look at that sweet axe handle, Mom. Why is it floating?
Yeah.
Now you also do theater.
Yeah, I do lots of theater.
And do you is that another thing that's another creative niche for you, or what do you think?
Have you always done that since high school?
I did some theater in high school. It's kind of a late bloomer to it, though. I've always been interested in acting, but was always kind of a wuss. And I took an acting class at Washington High School. I graduated from Washington 1991. And my drama teacher was Mike Cervantes. And he is one guy that really... He probably wouldn't know it now because he probably wouldn't know me from Adam because we do stuff at TCR, but he's had so many students go through, and he's also does stuff at Xavier and stuff now. So it's probably been, good
And TCR is Theatre Cedar Rapids?
Theatre Cedar Rapids,
Okay.
yes.
Is that
TCR.
different than the Paramount? Different than?
Yeah.
I mean, is it all?
Yeah, the Paramount. I mean, the Paramount's kind of run by the city.
Okay.
Theatre Cedar Rapids is its own independent
Okay.
theater company that's a nonprofit organization. So the Paramount is a lot like, if you think about it like the Five Seasons Center or the whatever they call it nowadays, United States Cellular Center, those are the same people that manage it.
Okay.
Okay, so that's just a venue for things like concerts and movies, whatever they're doing there. I think the most recent thing I did there was I saw Christmas Story
Okay.
there. They played the movie, and then they had the kid that played Randy.
Really? Oh, that's awesome.
Ian Petrella. And I got to meet him. And I could tell you a whole nother story on that because, I do artsy-fartsy creative crap, and I'll tell you about that here later. But yeah, they're just managed by the city.
Okay.
And the Theatre Cedar Rapids is its own nonprofit. Was founded a long time ago. One of the original founding members, just to put it in perspective, was Grant Wood,
Okay.
the painter,
Awesome.
the American Gothic guy.
Sure.
So yeah, so he was one of the. I don't know if he was one of the founding players, but I know he was part of the original company that did stuff.
And so and that's a local production of things, or do they ever bring outside things in? Like, they have like Book of Mormon comes into town, things like that. I wasn't sure.
When the touring, like Beauty and the Beast, Green Day's American Idiot, those kind of things, those are actually brought in, and they're doing this thing called Broadway at the Paramount. So those are all brought in by the city at the Paramount.
Oh, okay.
So, but right now they're working on, what show are they doing? One of Harper Lee's stories.
Kill a Mockingbird?
Kill a Mockingbird, yes. That's on stage opening this week at Theatre Cedar Rapids.
That's a
I'm not in
doozy.
that show. Yeah.
Holy cow.
It is.
It might be interesting to see that.
The amount of talent, one thing that I've learned by doing theater in Cedar Rapids is the amount of talent, acting, singing, dancing, is mind-boggling. There are so many talented people in this city, it just blows my frickin' mind. And a few of them have gone on to do big things. Elijah Wood, Ashton Kutcher, the guy from Lost, Michael Emerson.
Oh.
They've all been in Cedar Rapids. Ron Livingston, he was on the stage at Theatre Cedar Rapids several times. His brother John, several times. They've gone on to do movies. Right now, Ron's on Boardwalk Empire.
Yeah.
So, I mean, he's from Cedar Rapids. His mom's a preacher in Marion.
Right.
So,
And I think the best part about Ron is he's got one of the best cult following movies of all time with Office Space. I mean, you mention it, people know exactly who he is.
Yeah, I mean, and then he was in Band of Brothers.
Yeah,
he has
really
had
good
a
at that.
very amazing career. And
Really
it's not,
good movies, too.
Yeah,
I mean, not
and
like
it's-
shitty ones.
No, and it's not because he's lucky. It's because he's really, really good at what he does.
Yeah.
His brother is just as talented as he is. In fact, when I was in high school, watching his brother on stage in Romeo and Juliet and Pippin inspired me to audition for shows. Ron's brother, John. John went to Wash. Ron went to Marion.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Interesting.
And you have a part coming up. You have a play coming up.
Yeah. We just started rehearsals last week for God of Carnage. It's a play. It actually was on Broadway, and in the original Broadway cast, it had Marcia Gay Harden, Hope Davis, I think, Jeff Daniels, and James Gandolfini.
Wow.
All four of them got nominated for Tonys for the play, and Marcia Gay Harden won Best Actress in a Play Tony Award for the show, and I think the play got like Best Play.
Wow.
So it's a big show. I think when it actually opened in London first, and Ray Fiennes was in it. Voldemort.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
yeah. So I mean, it's a pretty big names have been attached to this play. Of course, it's been being done by local theaters and high schools and colleges now for a couple of years, I think. But to be in this show, it's pretty cool. But the show itself, now there's no kids in the show, but the premise of the show is that it's in the afternoon. Earlier in the day, these kids, a couple boys, were in the park, and one of them, in the play, it's my son, hits the other kid in the face with a stick and breaks out a couple teeth. And so it's later in the day, and these parents are meeting for the first time, and one of them's kind of preparing the statement. So your son hit my son with a stick, and we're kind of going over that at the beginning of the show. And the premise is we're trying to reconcile so this never happens again with our children, and then we kind of devolve through the show. It's kind of, we end up being kids ourselves is kind of what it ends up being.
I heard it was I heard the Broadway play was incredible.
You can actually, I'm sure you could watch it on YouTube. I know I've seen parts of it on YouTube with the original cast, shaky cam. Somebody's up there with their cell phone, recorded bits and pieces. I think the whole thing is probably out there, but every show is slightly different. The actors have a different take on the characters, but it's kind of a complex show, and it's only 2 actors, 2 actresses, 4 people on stage for this whole time, no intermission, and
really,
yeah, almost 50 pages of dialogue that we have to memorize. I mean, that's just part of being an actor, but
that's daunting.
That's a lot. It's a lot, and because you don't want to screw it up, and it's so important to keep the show flowing in the right way. And there's so many nuances in the way that it's written. You cannot screw up the dialogue at all, or you could mess up a gag later. But it's a dark comedy. When the gal wrote it, though, she's like, "This isn't a comedy," but yeah.
Well, what's hard for me is I hate to pigeonhole people, or pigeonhole people. When you said, was it Ralph Fiennes who was in that play? I like him and I love him as an actor.
Yeah.
But whenever I hear his name, Schindler's List, and him in that movie, was so ugly and brutal that I think of him and I get nauseous.
Well,
and that's the kind of impact that what he did in that movie. Yeah. I mean, obviously he's that good, but
yeah.
Isn't that though like a double-edged sword? When an actor is so good, they're forever tattooed with that role,
that evil,
and then you have a really hard time seeing him in another movie. Like when I did see Star Wars, the newest episodes, with Hayden Christensen, I didn't really have a hard time seeing Life as a House, because to me that. Even though it's an epic, I mean, Star Wars is epic, but it wasn't like the very first 3 movies that had come out. And you have a hard time seeing, Harrison Ford was great in Indiana Jones, but the Luke,
Carrie Fisher
and
right.
Who played Luke?
Mark Hamill.
Mark Hamill. Thank you.
Yeah.
I couldn't see them playing any other role, because I'd see them and go, "Oh, there's Luke Skywalker. What's he?"
Yeah,
right?
I had a tough time watching Blues Brothers, and Carrie Fisher has a pretty decent sized role in that as Jake's ex-girlfriend. But I'm like watching her as a kid, because my parents would let me watch movies, didn't matter. I was raised by my mom for the most part, and so she wasn't around a lot to censor me. So I had quite the education in movies and television. I was kind of raised. My babysitter was TV, so I watched a lot of movies as a teenager, lots and lots. But to see her in that role in Blues Brothers, and then to see her in Star Wars, it's like, oh my God, that's Princess Leia. I had a tough time breaking that, but I never had that tough of a time breaking Han Solo from Indiana Jones. I couldn't break away. I mean, they were similar yet so different. I just was like, eh.
And I think again, Harrison Ford is. You're right. He's kind of an amalgam, because he's
an enigma. An amalgam
is an enigma.
An amalgam is a riddle. An amalgam is a lot of things all put together in one thing.
Amalgamated.
God,
so that's what I was thinking.
An enigma is more of a question.
Yeah, you're
so
teaching me stuff.
I was thinking that I think he takes on all these things and he really fits them well. Think of not Hunt for Red October, but the other movies after that.
Yeah, Air Force One.
Yeah, he fit those. I mean, he fit those. I don't know if it's the
Regarding
way he
Henry.
looks. Oh God, Regarding Henry was so flippin' good. I love that movie.
When he played the bad guy in What Lies Beneath, he's the dad, or he's the husband.
Yeah,
and
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Maybe it's his face.
Michelle
Maybe
Pfeiffer.
he has a face that
when
just
he played
fits.
the bad guy, it fucking freaked me out, because I'd never seen him in that role.
It's hard to see somebody as a bad guy that's been your hero growing up.
For sure.
That I almost forgot he was the bad guy in that. Yeah.
And I almost was like, no, he's still a good guy.
He's got to be good.
Michelle,
He's gotta be good.
just die for him. Just die.
He was awesome in The Fugitive too. But regarding
shit,
Henry,
yeah.
he got so much shit for that role. I mean, everybody hated him in that role. But I'm like, really? Go back and watch it. It's really not that bad.
How
of a
else
movie.
could you play it?
Exactly.
I mean, how else could you pull it off? I mean, it's like I guess this is a terrible comparison. I'm a huge Meet Joe Black fan, one of probably 10 in the world.
I've never seen it.
You've never seen it? I love it. I love Meet Joe Black.
People gave Brad Pitt a huge amount of shit that he's playing death in a human's body, and yet he's experiencing all these new things. My brother in particular thought it was the worst movie he's ever seen because he's like, he's death. He's been around for millennia.
But
he should know how he should know how
never,
everything works.
And he's never been in a human body up until now.
Right, but he should know how human beings interact. He should know how things work. You would think. I disagree too. I totally disagree.
I mean, death, his job is that's it. You're done. See ya. And that's all he needs to know. He's just there to end whatever's going on. He doesn't know what love is. He doesn't know. I mean,
what peanut butter tastes like.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. And plus Thomas Newman does the music for it, so I love it.
The lead female actress in that. Do you know who I'm talking about?
I forget her name.
Was it not Demi Moore?
No,
it was a
she's
brunette
a looker
though,
too.
right?
Me too. Yeah.
I'll get it.
She
Winona Ryder?
No. She's
nobody that you would think.
No, she's in she's in some alcohol commercials lately with a really thick Irish or Scottish accent.
I think she
and
is.
I just can't stand it.
I think she is actually from somewhere.
Really?
Yeah.
She's great in that movie, and I love watching the movie.
Claire Forlani.
What else was she in? She was in a few other things, wasn't she?
She has been in a couple different things, but this is like her biggest one, I think. But yeah, I mean, she's smoking.
Oh yeah. Woo.
She's like
Yep, that's her.
She's pretty cute.
And she has a good American accent too.
It blows my mind listening to a lot of the actors on TV shows, like the guy who plays Rick on Walking Dead. He's English.
Yeah.
I mean,
oh really?
Yeah. I mean, he
was. Do you remember Love Actually?
Love Actually, yeah. One of the best movies of all time.
I don't think I saw.
We watch it like 3 or 4 times every Christmas holiday season. I think.
Really? Yeah.
It's up there with like What About Bob for us. We watch it a lot.
All right.
And then, but in that show, he plays like this, a friend of his got married, and he's actually in love with his buddy's wife, but like a crush kind of thing from afar. And so he's got a part in the movie that's really, really neat. But yeah, he's British.
Yeah.
And so when somebody said, "Oh, you got to start watching this TV show," I was like, "Well, who's the main guy in it?" And they showed me. And I was like,
"Isn't Andrew Lincoln? Is that his name? Something like that?" I got him mixed up with Andrew Garfield, but Andrew Garfield also is an English actor who has got an amazing American accent. He was Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, he is. I love him as the new Amazing Spider-Man.
Did you like what's his face?
No, never.
You never liked Tobey Maguire?
Never once.
Oh, I did.
Never once.
You know what? I
it.
went back and I watched the original, not the original, the Spider-Man movie with Tobey Maguire just recently. Introduced my youngest daughter to it, and you know what? I thought he was all right. I thought he was all right. It's later on that the second one, the third one, I just it wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah, the third one for sure, because he cannot play those where he's infected by the symbiote.
Yeah.
For all you Spider-Man geeks out there.
Most people had problems with him because when he was crying that, there's all these things that, that Spider-Man wouldn't do those things. And I was like, what?
Yes, he would.
No, yeah, Spider-Man
He's totally human.
would.
Yeah.
That character was...
It says something about him being an ugly crier. I'm like, what guy is not an ugly crier?
Well, he is an ugly crier. I'm not. I'm a beautiful fucking crier.
I bet you are.
No. I really like the new Spider-Man movies. I'm looking forward to the next one.
I think it's going to be pretty interesting. But, I have this thing about Spider-Man 3 that I really felt like maybe they tried to do too much with it. But one of my friends, Steve Worthington, we call him Shakaboom, he pointed out to me that really it wasn't that bad, but them it was the way that Raimi edited it and put it together that made it as bad as it was. But I really do think what they're doing with the new Amazing Spider-Man, bringing in Electro, Rhino, Green Goblin, not the Hobgoblin, it's Green Goblin, and a few other surprises that it's going to be one heck of a ride.
Did the third one have Venom? Is that the third one?
Yeah, that was the third one.
Okay,
was Venom.
I can't remember. And I liked that one.
I was really looking forward to that character coming out finally.
Now they're making a standalone Venom. Did you hear about this?
No, I didn't.
After this Amazing Spider-Man, there's a standalone Venom There's a standalone, what they call the Sinister Six, which is like a bunch of the villains in the Spider-Man universe.
Well, they're making so much fucking movie off this. Every one of these, it doesn't matter.
Money off the movie.
Money off the movie.
What did I say?
Movies
So
off
much
the
movie
movies.
off the movie.
That's my dyslexia. Sorry, but you just make so much money off of it because I've heard of the same thing about Avengers. I mean, somebody told me the other day there's like 7 movies planned out. This one's happening here, and then this one, and they're going to offshoot on this one thing. They're going to bring them back together again, and they're going to do this next one. It's like the Star Wars movies that are coming up. I mean, they're already being planned. They're all spaced out,
and they have to come together really lock and key.
Well, there's the
play out
Netflix
correctly.
Marvel Universe shows too. There's a Daredevil show coming on Netflix.
Cool.
Netflix original Daredevil, and there's another
It
character.
doesn't have what's his name in his Daredevil, does it?
No, Affleck is going to be Batman, so he can't be Daredevil.
Oh, you know
is
what?
he
Listen,
really?
I really like Ben Affleck. I really do, but I think of Batman and him, like, sorry, it does not work for me.
He did pretty good playing George Reeves in that the Superman movie they did about George Reeves, and there was like a murder that happened, and
It wasn't Black Medallion.
no, that was Black Dahlia. No, it reminded me of that though. But I mean, no, he played. It was really an interesting.
Oh, he played the actor who
played the
played
actor.
Superman back in the day.
Yeah, because
okay.
that guy was a player.
Yeah.
That guy was.
Yeah, it was he did a pretty amazing job.
Well, again, I think he's a good actor. Maybe Daredevil was just such a horrible movie that I couldn't get him.
The cut they released in the theaters of Daredevil was a horrible movie. Have you seen the director's cut?
No, I haven't.
I highly recommend.
Really?
Yes.
taking a chance here, Chad.
They took a turd and polished it.
Okay, because I'm telling you, that movie was so
Or
fucking
they took
horrible.
a polished turd and then they released the unedited.
The studios put out crap. I mean, it's just a crappy movie. Okay, they cut out a lot of the key pieces to the story that helped the movie make sense, and so Coolio is just kind of a cameo in the theater release.
Right.
But in the actual director's cut, Coolio has a much bigger role, and then it makes the story make more sense. And Matt Murdock isn't just this dick lawyer; he's actually going out and doing some good. And
All right.
you have to watch it at least once, and then tell me what you think.
You got it. I would totally do that. I never thought I would ever do that for you, but yes, I will totally give that a shot. So you've never seen Meet Joe Black?
Never seen Meet Joe Black, but I will have to watch it now.
Yeah, let me know what you think because I'm a huge music soundtrack fan.
Yes,
and I don't not the singing stuff with the music behind everything.
The orchestration.
Yeah, the orchestration is. I'm a big fan.
So you like Elfman and okay, yeah,
and what's the guy who did all the Star Wars stuff? John Williams. Yeah, and I'm a huge Thomas Newman fan because he does a lot of that stuff too. But Meet Joe Black, one of the things that I really like about it's got some great actors in it. You know, it has Anthony Hopkins and things like that. But it's the background music, and but I mean, I think they presented it in a way where it's kind of. The cinematography is very grandiose and things like that, and they let those things play out, and it's not this action-packed little thing happening. It's a lot more drama involved.
I love movies where they use the soundtrack as more than just going along with the gunshots. You know, you're listening to the soundtrack, and it's actually telling the story as much as what's happening on the screen.
You and me, buddy. Absolutely.
That to me is amazing. One of my favorite CDs is Music for a Darkened Theater, and it's all of it's like Danny Elfman's greatest hits is really what it is.
Okay.
And I could just pop that in and listen to it. One of the first things when I did one of my first haunted attractions, the soundtrack for The Frighteners, also Danny Elfman, was kind of my inspiration for the pacing of how I wanted people to flow through the haunt.
Okay.
And so just one of the first playing around haunted attractions I did was in my mom's basement to the theme for Frighteners.
Okay.
And it is just, I made it flow. It was timed out perfectly to that song.
That's very
And then
neat.
I threw in White Zombie, at the time, which is popular. And
Sure.
It was just I placed it to music, and it was just worked great.
I always love the idea that music inspires us like that. Aaron Bunce, who's an author we've had on a couple times, he works with
He actually
Matt.
went to school with him.
Oh, that's right.
Oh yeah.
Well,
I
should say he went to Washington.
I know.
And
I
same,
know the name.
Aaron and Andy Bunce.
Okay.
And so Aaron has written a book, and it was inspired by a piece of music that he heard. It kind of launched his imagination to do that. I'm going to put this out to you so you can watch Meet Joe Black. There's a scene where he goes, and I think that he tries peanut butter for the first time. It's kind of supposed to be kind of a funny scene. right before or after that scene, he's walking down a hallway. He turns around and looks at himself and sees himself in a mirror for the first time in his human form. And this music starts right then. And every single time, it just catches me off guard because it's like that, like you said,
it's telling the story.
It's telling the story. He looks at himself, and the music is telling you, "Oh shit, that's what I look like. Holy cow, I'm really here, and I'm really doing this." And so the music behind that movie to me is just phenomenal. Have you seen Cinderella Man with?
Yeah.
That's Thomas Newman music again. The music.
Ron Howard directed that. Did he direct Meet Joe Black?
No.
I love Ron Howard's movies.
Yeah,
so,
me too.
I mean, he gets a lot of crap for being like Richie Cunningham, who I think looks a lot like Chuck Kavanaugh. But
oh shit!
Yeah,
I cannot wait.
It's either Richie Cunningham or Keith Urban. So he gets it. He gets it all the time. So
it's a good mixture between the two, to be honest. The picture in my head.
Chuck is like my brother. Okay,
Yeah, he's a good guy.
Chuck might be the bastard child of the two.
He's a very good friend, and we consider him family in our house. So
very cool.
yeah.
Well, I saw the interactions with him and your daughter yesterday, so it definitely looks like that. So
Oh yeah, he's like that with my whole family.
that's awesome.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. No, something, speaking of yesterday, something I really enjoyed that I didn't know if it was unexpected that I got this.
Well, and we were at the St. Patty's Day parade yesterday in Cedar Rapids, so we can preface it that way.
Yeah.
You were telling us the history of it and kind of these tiny little things that happen in the people come up and they try to bribe the judges and
There's no trying.
You know
no, there's no
They're
trying.
bribing.
Okay, guys. You know what? I thought I was actually being annoying. I know you guys were trying to record your
No,
I was really enjoying the whole.
I was
we loved
kind of like, oh my god, I better just shut the hell up because these guys are trying to do their thing, and I didn't. I mean, I'm like,
No,
I'll be honest
we
with
had
you.
a fantastic time
I'll be honest with you. Doing, I was totally stoked yesterday morning at the breakfast get together when I got to meet you finally. I was very excited, and to see Tammy again. I don't know why I just wasn't expecting to see her again, but I was very excited about all that. Meeting your brother.
yeah. Oh, my brother, he's a hoot.
I really enjoyed meeting him. But then we got to and I was very excited, very ready to go. We did a couple of interviews, which we'll play. And then we got to the parade, and my idea of
Doing like a
on location
Right.
podcast.
You know what? Yeah, Chuck and I
Right.
have tried to do that before, and I was going to warn you guys. But trying to do a play-by-play for that thing is damn near impossible.
Yeah.
well, the noise alone, but then
It's a learning experience. Like if you would have just told us and we were like, oh,
Yeah, whatever. You wouldn't.
I wouldn't have learned it.
And that's kind of why I really didn't say much. But you did the right thing by going around and gathering interviews. That's that's what I did 5 years ago. Chuck, I followed Chuck around 5 o'clock in the morning. We're out drinking whiskey. And he's doing his interviews with the TV people. Then we're going to KZIA, and we're all over the place. So if you can dig up the first St. Patrick's Day episode that I did with Chuck on the Can Man Show, it's probably like our 8th or 10th. No, not my 8th episode. That's an infamous episode. But it's down there. It's up there.
Now I got to pull up.
I might have to pull that up now.
No, the 8th episode I never posted.
Oh.
See, I had this thing about cursing on the show. I didn't want to curse.
Okay.
And it's just after a few years, you just like, shit, the hell with it. You know, because everybody's going to curse anyway.
I was going to say, it's just part of conversation sometimes, so...
Yeah, I mean, it's just kind of just happens. It's just the way we talk. It's welcome to 2014. We've de-evolved a little bit in our communication skills and our linguistics. Kids aren't learning this in school anymore. They're not learning how to speak properly. They're not learning proper English. We've embraced Ebonics. That's just the way life is. Fuck it. Right?
Right.
So that's kind of, but you can't say fuck it in school.
Right.
But, you know, it's just one of those things. It's kind of like, okay, you're telling me to fuck it, but I can't say fuck it. Got it. That's
like my son the other day said, shut the fucking bus window.
No, he did not.
How old is your son?
Oh,
Well,
God.
he's 8. He's 8, and he was telling his 10-year-old sister, the window just would not latch.
Yeah.
According to him, the window would not latch, and it kept falling. Every time it hit a bump, it would just keep coming down.
Right.
And he kept turning around saying, shut that fucking window.
My favorite
And he got
story
moved.
of the Matt household is last summer. His youngest let a cart go at the Target parking lot and smashed a car door and cost them $500.
Ouch.
The next couple days, their other son was messing around riding his bike, ran into the neighbor's garage door, cost them another $400. And so when we all came over one day, my kids and his kids play together a lot, his wife goes, all right, stay the fuck away from everybody's houses and all their important things. I can't afford to have you guys doing anything else.
And my kids. And my wife's a saint. My wife's a saint. She barely swears.
Yeah.
And she barely yells.
Yeah.
So when she said that, it made everybody go, "Oh, yes.
Oh, let's keep our eyes
ma'am.
let's keep our eyes
Yes,
open."
ma'am.
You know, your wife and my wife sound a lot alike. I mean, my wife very rarely does a curse come out of her mouth when she's around other people. Mm-hmm. But in our house, it's, you know, she'll like, shut the fuck up. You know, she'll get to that point. But yeah, that's crazy. I can understand though that situation.
Well, and I think I keep myself. I can feel like we're all parents. So that's good. I feel myself getting to that point, and so I remember holding my son's chin, going, "You need to shut your mouth right now." And I just remember thinking that I thought it was going to slip out or something was going to happen.
In my house, it slips out all the time, and my kids know the words. You know how I know? We have what we call an amnesty moment in our house, and it was early on we discovered this actually is very good for our kids because they learned what words not to use in public. But at the dinner table, once every couple months, when you can tell that your kid just wants to go, "What the fuck?" and you just go, "Okay, you've got 1 minute, let loose. Okay, tell me all the words that you want to get out. Curse. Let's go. 1 minute on the clock. Go." And then it's shit, fuck, damn, ass, bastard, fucker, 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 bastard, fucker, asshole, fucker, fucker, shit, 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 damn, 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 bitch, bitches, bitched. And then, then it kind of just goes for a whole minute. And this is my 6-year-old. Okay, that at the time she was 6.
At the time she was 6.
But she didn't quite have the grasp of it. So
Sure.
it was poop, turd, shit, fucker, fucked, because she knew these words. She's not an idiot. Our children aren't idiots, and we shouldn't treat them like idiots.
True.
They're sponges. They hear it all anyways.
Right. They hear it all anyway. I mean, by telling them not to say something that I'm going to ultimately say, it makes me a hypocrite. Okay. I'm very honest with my kids. Okay. When it comes to that stuff. And as long as they know the difference between when not to use that type of language, it's great. But as my daughter's gotten older, my 11-year-old, she's gotten a lot looser with the language at home. But I'm not making any excuses, but she's just is, and we'll call her on it. But she knows in public when she's at school, just not to say it. One of the scientific study. Okay, if you ever hit your hand, you're pounding a nail and you hit your finger.
Sure.
The first thing out of your mouth is going to be shit or fuck. You know why? It's your body is actually, when you curse like that, your body produces not just endorphins, but it also produces chemicals in your body that help you deal with the pain. So when you're cursing, it's not because you're losing your filter, it's because you're actually releasing chemicals in your body.
So what did we do before we had swear words? So when we said,
we would make some
son of a nutcracker,
we would do the whatever the inevitable equivalent of that was.
Huh.
So
that's interesting.
You grunt or whatever,
right?
But we would make some sort of guttural sound that would take part of the pain that you're feeling, and then your body would produce the chemicals to balance out that pain. It's crazy.
Wow, that's really interesting.
It probably started out like with my son, the same one that said "shut the fucking window." He's very emotional. If he gets even a tiny bit hurt, it's just floodgates, and he's bawling, sobbing very loudly. And there's been times, and my younger son, 6 months younger, said never does this. He never does it. You could smack him in the face. I mean, he's tough. He's very tough. He's had his arm stepped on and broken, and he handled it like a champ.
Yeah, he didn't even cry at first.
Yeah, this is how he told me his arm was broken. My arm is broken. And that was it.
Wow.
My arm is broken. He kind of sounds like a 40-year-old smoker.
He does.
My older son, what you were just talking about, I think that pain originally probably just came out as crying and whining, and then as you get older, you decide to translate it differently. Because I told my son, "Hun, do you ever see Dad cry? I get hurt all the time. I do stupid things all the time. I burn myself.
Yeah.
I stub my toe. There's things that happen. I pull a back muscle. things happen, but do you see me cry?
I don't cry on pain. I cry in movies.
Yes.
Emotional pain makes me cry.
Yes.
But it's the I cut my finger off. Oh shit, I'm not crying.
Yeah, because I remember the only time I've ever really been seriously injured is when I had a high ankle sprain playing volleyball 15 years ago, and that's the worst pain I've ever had in my entire life. And I remember screaming with my mouth closed, and my son looking at me like he had never seen me react like that. I'm always usually pretty calm, laid back, quiet person, and here I was going, it hurt so bad. And that's the first time I've ever been hurt. I never broke any bones, nothing like that. And so I think it's okay for them to see us in those moments and how we handle it. It's a really good model to see. So I think it's okay to be, like you said, to see your kids see you cry. Like my kids all the time, if we're watching a movie or we're watching fucking 60 Minutes, I'll cry. They always, or CBS Sunday Morning, always have a goddamn segment in there that makes me cry.
Oh,
and I'm just like, my kids are like, Dad, are you crying? I'm like, yeah, you were watching that? It was sad. Oh my God, why are you? You should be crying too. It was sad.
I watched a movie the other day called
CBS Sunday Morning.
The thing is, I know exactly what segment you're talking about. The one they always throw in there to kind of pull at your damn heartstrings. Those fuckers. It pisses me off when they do that shit. And then I'm sitting there crying in the living room, and my wife kind of looks at me, and she knows when I go, fucking show. Because I'm cursing at the television because they're making me cry. So I was watching Suits the other day, and it's a comedy drama on USA Network. And I've caught up to the end of season 2. Well, one of the main characters, something happens, and you're invested in this character, and then you're sitting there bawling your eyes out. I mean, I was freaking crying. So I
haven't watched it yet.
Are you watching?
You know what? I haven't watched it yet, but I'm going to start watching it, and I'm going to prepare myself to cry.
Do you
ever cry? It's not at the end of season 2.
No.
It just
I
happens.
do all the time.
Okay.
I do all the time.
Because I'll just lean back in my chair and like pinch my nose and go like, oh, God damn, this show. I say the same thing. I'm like, God damn this show.
Yeah.
And my wife's over there. She's got her tissue. I'm like, why do they keep doing this?
Do you guys ever watch The Middle on ABC?
I haven't watched
I've seen it. I haven't watched it a lot.
The show, there are many things that happen on that show when my son was still in the house. The year after he left. And they have an older son who was a senior in high school in the show. And it's like the writers were in my freaking house for a lot of the conversations that happened during that show. Now, we're not quite as redneck crazy as their household is. But they're not really redneck. They're just dirt poor, okay? And
PWT, that's what we call it.
Yeah, and that's actually kind of crazy. But I would swear the writers had a camera in our house watching what was going on with our son and his relationship problems and things. And there were things that would happen on there that would get my wife and I both in tears, not just laughing, but because it was so freaky that it was like stuff going on in our house. It's crazy. And
this is the kid that walks around in his underwear all the time, right? His white tidy whities. Is that the kid you're talking about?
My son who was there yesterday, he was the one wearing the Oregon Duck shirt.
Yeah.
He's 22.
Which, by the way, he got my attention yesterday because I like to see unique relationships with father-sons.
Yeah.
I really, when little things like this happen, it really catches my eye. When you would go out of your way and say, wave to one of the clowns that was in the parade, or you would say something loud, and your son really enjoys you.
He thinks I'm funny.
That's. I think you're right. He doesn't enjoy you, but I heard him say, because I'm a listener, so I'm like, God, Dad, that hat looks really good on you. I really like that hat on you.
He's trying to kiss my ass to borrow money.
Oh, stop
He's 22.
it! Stop it!
That's a great. That was what I saw yesterday was just a really neat. That was one aspect of yesterday's parade that I wasn't expecting to see.
You guys are going to make me cry here.
I like really enjoyed that relationship. And I only got a little smidgen. I got a little glimpse inside the window.
Is he from a previous marriage or a relationship?
No, my wife and I, okay. So I was very young. My wife, 15 years old, right? My wife calls me up. She knew my neighbor down the street. She was like friends with my neighbor down the street. She was 15. I was 15. And they crank called my house and ordered a pizza, and I played along. And ever since then, we've kind of been going out.
Holy shit!
I asked her to be my girlfriend opening night of the Tim Burton Batman movie, and I saw it at the Collins Road 5. Oh, and so I asked her to be my girlfriend then. We only broke up once, and then we got back together when we found out she was pregnant. I'll be completely unfiltered and honest. So, and,
you guys were together for a lot of years. That's okay.
And then we got married after Zach was 2. So this is our 21st year, I think.
Congratulations. That's fantastic.
So we're kind of we've been together long enough that we can read each other's mind. Mm-hmm. I mean, for the most part, there are times when we're like out of sync.
Sure,
but I can tell when her flow's coming. I can tell when I'm going to be up shit creek for something I didn't do. You know, I could just tell. And then
I'm going to go down to the basement and try to make something for a while.
Yeah, no, I mean,
I good upstairs.
I can tell when I need to be out of the house for a little while. You know, just can tell. But we have a very good relationship. The key to success in our relationship is honesty and communication. I mean, I don't keep secrets from my wife. Even if my friends tell me a secret, she's the one person in the world that I confide in.
That you share with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, even the biggest, deepest, darkest secrets, she can keep them for me, though. She doesn't go blabbing to other people what's going on. So, but I don't keep anything from her at all. And that has really been the key to success in our life.
Well, I'd say the only hiccups I've ever had in any relationship, especially my current one, are when I have kept things from her for whatever reason I thought was a great reason, you know. Yeah. So I mean, that's got to be the key.
Not that I have never been guilty of like forgetting to tell her something. Oh my God, I forgot to tell you this. Because there are things because I can just go on. I'm a talker. Okay.
Really?
Yeah, no shit. I can talk and talk and talk, right? But that's what I'm good at, and that's why I do podcasts.
Sure.
You know, that's why I get on the radio. That's why I talk for a living. You know, during my day job, I talk for a living. So there's a reason that I do what I do because I'm damn good at it. But my wife, sometimes, I forget to tell her things. And that's the only time I've ever in the doghouse, really. That or when she found my box of Playboys when we were early on in our marriage. She was pretty upset about that.
She better not get in your search history then.
No, she knows. No.
All dudes, all guys nowadays know how to.
I'm teasing.
Either get rid of the search history
I'm just kidding.
No, actually, I've got quite the porn library.
Good for you. Yeah. Good for you. It's the key to life. Even Denise Stapley, who was Survivor lady, she's a sex therapist. Yeah. She was on our podcast a couple of podcasts ago. She's like, whatever works. Yeah. She has no problems with that.
No, I mean, it's...
Another water?
Yeah, sure. No, it's just any guy who tells you that they don't masturbate or look at porn is a fucking liar. That's the way I look at it. You got to be honest, honestly. But it's not something that you should bring up, like in casual conversation like I just did. But that's the way I look at it. Anybody that tells you that they don't look at porn, bullshit, you don't.
I think you're right. And I have one friend who
swears they haven't.
Swore he hadn't. And then I have another buddy. The three of us went to school together. And I have another buddy. He and I are, avid porn, enthusiasts. And we've said to him, I remember it must be 15, 20 years ago.
Yeah.
We were like, we know you're full of shit. Give me a break. Everybody does it. It's okay. And he was dead serious.
Yeah,
because he was so homophobic. He thought masturbating was somehow some kind of homophobic thing.
Yeah.
So then we would talk. We were always talking about it.
Is he the guy that got prostate cancer? Just out of curiosity.
No, it's not.
That's why I do it, because to prevent prostate cancer.
Exactly.
That's the whole reason.
Exactly. But then I remember having a conversation with him, and I remember him saying one time, "Yeah, what's funny is you and so were talking about that, and then about a few months later, I was thinking about my girlfriend, and she was off at college, and I got a little excited, and I thought,
maybe that's what I need.
Maybe I should go take care of this." And he's like, I went to the bathroom, and I looked at it, and I thought, I just can't.
And I looked at it, and I just can't.
I was like, dude, that's the perfect opportunity right there.
Now, if you're staring at it when you're doing it, I don't generally stare at it. That's kind of like looking at your buddy in the eye. It kind of ruined it for me, I think.
Stop staring at me.
That's a whole different level of closeness.
I was never in a fraternity, but I've heard of those rituals where they're all in the day room
or circle jerks or any of that crazy shit.
I couldn't do that.
Me either.
That's not. No.
Well, I had 3 guys. You were in the military,
Yeah.
and I'm sure you have crazy stories. One of the weirdest things that had happened in my basic training was there was a group of fellas that thought this was the cool thing. We're bored. We're either getting smoked or we're doing something that we really don't give 2 shits about.
Right.
And we're back in the barracks, and there was a group of guys that would go back into the stalls, and for fun, they would say, go, and they'd all jerk off, and then they'd be like, done, and then they would show it. They had to show a palm full of spooge.
I
think someone would have gotten their ass kicked in my basic training if that would have happened.
And see, Junior, my son who just got done with Air Force basic training, said that all of them talked about how they weren't getting erections. All these things weren't happening. He thinks that the stress was so much that it was just too much for him to handle.
I think that when I was in, they were always talking about how they put saltpeter in the food.
Right.
Sure. Or soft peter in the food. So, I mean,
is that real? Is saltpeter a real thing that they really do that?
I don't know,
it's
but
a real thing. I don't know.
I wouldn't put it past them.
Sure.
I don't know what kind of shit they shot in my arm when I walked through the line at MEPS,
Right.
So who knows what they put in you? I mean, because you have no idea what they're injecting you with. We probably have some secret super soldier serum that, we're going to make us become like the Manhattan soldier.
The Manchurian
candidate, yeah.
I'm going to go off on a little tangent and say I thought that.
Do you know about the Manchurian candidate?
The movie with Captain America, the first one? I thought that was really good.
You mean Fantastic Four?
No, I mean the movie just Captain America.
Oh, yeah, because
I thought that was really good.
Hey, Winter Soldier.
Yeah,
the Winter Soldier looks awesome because
it's his buddy, isn't it?
Well, no. Well,
spoiler.
Here's the thing. When the first Captain America movie came out, I thought to myself, if I was Captain America,
right,
back in the day, and I'm fighting the Germans, the Nazis,
right,
and then I get woken up out of ice for the Avengers, movie.
Right.
How would I see the world today? Would I think of what I did as a success? Or would I be like, fuck, did we lose a different war somewhere along the lines? Because society is fucking jacked.
Well, compared to the 40s, yeah.
Yeah. So now that Winter Soldier, the new Captain America movie coming out, he's actually thinking about maybe this isn't what I fought for.
Yeah,
I think that's the gist that I got.
I get that too because in the this is not a spoiler. In the trailer, they show him questioning Nick Fury about this isn't freedom. This is controlled freedom.
Yeah, this is you're reacting to something that hasn't happened yet. I thought we only reacted to crimes that had been committed.
Right. This isn't like precog stuff from Minority Report.
God damn, another good movie. Jeez Louise.
Did I mention I like movies?
We know you like movies,
and I love that we can sit down and talk about movies.
We've only done one movie show, but I'm a fanatic of movies, and he has done. When we saw The Matrix together in the theater
7 times.
Wow!
Because he got divorced, I got divorced. We were in the same house together, and we spent time together a lot.
The Wachowski was brothers. Wachowski's sister and brother, the Wachowski family, because one of them had a sex change. They're making a prequel.
Really?
Yes, they're denying it, but the production is starting very soon.
I just remember
that would be awesome.
The first bullet dodging scene. Mm-hmm. He and I turned and looked at each other.
When she jumps up in the very first scene.
Yeah, and she runs around the wall.
And she
swings up and
kicks
pauses.
That guy and breaks his arm and pretty much wrecks a room full of cops.
We looked at each other like,
one, holy shit, did you see her ass? And two, I've never seen anything like what just happened before, because that was the very first film visually that the camera switched around.
Oh yeah,
swung around like that.
Bullet time effect.
Yes.
That movie, I think, what's interesting is it came out right a few months before Episode 1 did, because it was still in the theaters when The Phantom Menace came out, because it was playing when I was camped out in front of the Carmike to get tickets for Phantom Menace.
Okay, you camped out.
I camped out. That was the only. This was pre-internet. Okay, so you can't buy your tickets online a month in advance.
You're right. That was pre-internet. Jesus, that
I mean, the internet was there, but it was like took you like a minute and a half to download a picture.
Right.
Porn.
Line.
Exactly.
Areola. Nipple.
Yeah. Exactly. So that is what the internet was like in 19
That's right.
whatever that came out. So I actually didn't see The Matrix until it was on DVD.
Really?
And I've kicked myself ever since. But for that generation of kids, for people, I really think as far as effects, movies, and story goes, that one movie probably could have been left alone and been a standalone. The other two movies,
Absolutely.
I totally agree.
Absolutely.
I couldn't agree more.
But that movie, I think, is kind of like the Star Wars, which is ironic because Episode 1 came out of that generation. I mean, I can't even say it was my generation because I was already in my 20s.
Yeah.
You know, that was something that...
And some of the things that spawned off of that, there was a cartoon. There was like 4 or 5 different cartoons that came off of that.
Okay,
and
going back to soundtracks, the Animatrix soundtrack.
Sure, yes.
Yeah.
It's one of the soundtracks I listen to when I make my monsters.
Really?
Full circle.
There you go.
Oh.
Nice. Well, I mean, those cartoons, some of them they were so different. All four or 5 cartoons were so
Right.
different and had such different perspectives on the. I thought it was so cool that they allowed somebody else to take our idea and go do something creative with it. You don't hear that very often anymore of people who are going to generate money off of something. You know,
Right.
here, take my idea and just do what you want.
And they brought up that Animatrix when they're talking about these prequels because the Animatrix was actually kind of a prequel to the Matrix.
first. Yeah, right.
Sure.
And so what they're saying is that the Animatrix isn't canon, so it's not going to be part of that real story.
Okay.
Because these prequels are going to supersede it because it's the Wachowski brother and sister that are now doing it.
Right. I didn't know they had sex change. That's interesting.
One of them did, yeah.
Oh, interesting. But the whole concept of that movie, the whole way it was, not just the special effects, but again the cinematography of the bridge and the water pouring down on either side. It's all the visuals of that movie.
It wasn't just the special effects; it was the color palette of the movie.
Absolutely.
I mean, movies nowadays, back in the 80s, really didn't have a color palette. It was if you go back and watch like Back to the Future, there was no color palette to that movie. But now you go back and you watch The Matrix, and the lights are dim, the colors are the greens and the blacks and the grays. They had a designer go in there and say, this is going to be our palette.
Well, it reminded me a lot of the movie The Crow
Yes.
with Brandon
Lee.
Brandon Lee.
James O'Barr's story, based on the comic book by James O'Barr,
Right.
The Crow. And that was a fantastic movie. And, of course, when they made that movie, Brandon Lee died in the making of that movie. So to finish it, that was one of the first times that they took CGI over a different actor and put his face on.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
Yep.
Yes, that was one of the first times in cinema history that they put a digital face over an actor to make it look like Brandon Lee.
I didn't know that.
And
Is it bad? I can't even remember.
No, it's not
it.
bad. I mean,
you can kind of tell because it doesn't really track in a couple times, but it's not on the screen long enough for it to make a difference.
Okay.
yeah, and I don't think you're prepared for it when it does happen. So it's just
It's kind of
already passed.
it actually is kind of ethereal. I mean, it's been a while since I've seen The Crow, and it's just kind of creepy that Bruce Lee's dad. He died in the making of a movie, and Brandon then also died in the making of a movie. So there's this whole Bruce Lee curse thing.
Yeah.
Now I saw this Bruce Lee video on YouTube recently where he's got, and I'm just going kind of.
You're right. It's awesome. It's an awesome video.
Did you see the
video
videos
is
with the
incredible.
ping pong thing?
Yeah.
Is that CG or is that real?
It's CGI. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not real, but I mean, they do it.
You know what? I wouldn't doubt it.
Well, see,
because he was a badass.
About 5 years ago, Nokia came out with a special edition Bruce Lee phone that I think was really only in Asia that they came out with it. And the video or the internet part of that was just the ping pong playing. Then somebody said, and then it went crazy viral. And so then they started doing that whole entire video. Some of that is Bruce Lee that they tie in with those videos that make it look like.
The thing is the only other time I've seen stuff like that is like Forrest Gump, which when you go back and you watch Forrest Gump now, it looks pretty fake.
Yeah, it does.
It is amazing how far that technology has come.
Well, look at Alpha House. Have you seen Alpha House?
Alpha House, no.
Alpha House is on Amazon Prime.
Okay.
You can watch the first season of Alpha House on Amazon Prime, and it's got John Goodman in it. It's got Kelly Ripa's husband,
Yeah.
Mark,
Whatever his name is.
Is it a comedy?
It is
Alpha House. Is it? What is it? Like
it's basically it's a comedy about Congress. So it's we
they all live in the same house. That's right.
Yeah, they all live in the same house. They're all renting from one guy, and that one guy does. It kind of looks like he doesn't know if he's gay or not, and he acts a certain way. So everybody's like, "Oh, you are gay," But he's a Republican, so he receives awards from the these huge Christian-based places for hating anal sex. He's like, yeah, thank you for.
I have to watch that. That sounds good.
It's very, very
Alpha
funny.
House. I've never even heard of it, and it's got John Goodman in it.
It has John Goodman
Wow.
in it. And the reason I brought it up is because at the beginning of that show, they have a ton of those types of scenes where they have the actors superseded into these kind of current political clips.
Is that their kind of shtick in the show? Is they have those things in it?
No,
it's just the opening credit.
Opening
it's the openings.
It's just the openings, and it's just kind of saying, these are our political positions, these are our jobs, and yes, I stand behind the president.
It's a comedy.
Yes, it's
about
a comedy.
Congress. Okay.
Well, have you seen any House of Cards? You've heard of House of Cards?
Yeah, I saw the first couple episodes of this season. I just haven't had. I watched Suits first.
Good for you.
I won't. So
Well,
so we won't wreck the second season for you.
No, but my wife and I sat, and I was like,
epic.
We watched it, and the first episode, I was like, we're not going to make it. We have to watch all of these now.
The first episode of the second season.
The first episode of the second season.
The red wedding scene.
It's kind of like that.
Yeah,
it is.
to me that was the red wedding scene, and I'm like, okay, it's fucking Game of Thrones. Okay, I can take a break now.
I was not prepared, like many people.
I saw it
for
coming.
the red. No, oh my God, Chad!
I got the red wedding scene. No, but the in the train station in House of Cards.
I'm talking about the actual red.
So telegraphed. I saw it coming.
Okay, I was so caught off guard by the
red wedding.
Okay, because I haven't seen any of the House of Cards.
I won't say anything of Game of Thrones for you, but I was sitting there and I was having all the internal reactions of all the external reactions I saw on the internet. Well, there were people that were people were videotaping their friends while they're doing it, and people are screaming and throwing pillows over their heads and going, "No!"
Yeah,
oh my God. Dude, it's so fucking violent and so horrible.
Yeah, you don't have to sell it on me.
They ice it up. I mean, it's a positive thing that's going on, and you're like, "Oh, this is going to be so cool," and then. Fuck!
You're so caught off guard. It's horrible.
It's like that when you find out that Bruce Willis is a ghost.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely.
It's like, huh? What?
That was one of those epic movies. There's only there's a handful of those epic movies where you think to yourself, "Oh, that's the first time we've seen that."
Yeah,
that's the first time we've seen
Matrix.
that type of look.
Yeah, for sure.
The Village.
Or to me, the idea of The Sixth Sense. It was the idea what that movie was about that to me was the first thing I had seen going, whoa, that's really thinking outside the box.
This kid that could see the ghosts. And
then they played out so well that you're caught off guard. When you saw that door with the bookshelf in front of it, I was like, what the fuck?
You can't open it. It's like the Blair Witch Project. Yeah. How many things have happened since the Blair Witch Project, but you never saw anything before Blair Witch Project, which was like that?
Paranormal Activity, I think, is the latest thing that's, I would say, if Blair Witch Project would never have made it as big as it was, Paranormal Activity movies would never have been made.
But yeah. For sure,
probably. And then the newest movie coming out the full movie shot on an iPhone is coming out.
There's actually been a few of them in Korea and China. There's a couple of cinematographers that only shoot in iPhones. Now iPhones, they have lots of really cool toys now that you can get. Chuck Kavanaugh has one of these things that you can put on your iPhone that you can switch out lenses. So you get wide angle lenses and all this other stuff, and you can record directly to your iPhone. It's crazy.
Interesting.
I mean, the cameras on cell phones are just...
I'm sure they have that stuff amazing. On the Samsung.
Oh, yeah. You can get the lenses now for the Samsung. Any of the newer Android phones, you can find the lenses online.
There for a little bit, right? What was it? A couple months ago, I was thinking, we need to start bringing in some video into this podcast.
Right.
Maybe a very easy, cheap way to do it would be... Let's use our cell phones.
Right. The only problem with my cell phone is the battery on my Galaxy S3 lasts maybe a couple hours when I don't have it plugged in. It's bad.
My battery is still okay because it's a new enough phone. We thought we would be able to plug them in so they don't. Like that doesn't happen.
Right.
And I think we've got some video clips of the Evan Stock Band when they were in this room performing, which is crazy.
Yeah, we had to move the table all the way to the wall.
But we had some video of
they
them.
just jammed out over there.
Yeah, and it turned out pretty good on my phone.
My studio is probably about the same size this way. And if your wall wasn't there right there, probably about the same size that way. But I also, it may be a little bit thinner. But it's about the same size as your room here. But I have it laid out where I've got like a couch in there, and then I've got the mics are on actual mic stands. A couple mics on each side of the couch, and then I have a freestanding mic that I'll put on a couple people on stools if I need to. But I had Wild Nept, the whole band, in my studio.
I just listened to that podcast the other day.
Yeah,
because that's your latest one, correct?
Yeah, episode 190. Of the Cam Man show. I was at, but that's not the one that they recorded in my house. That was at the Sapadapaso St. Patrick's Day Parade Society Irish Schoolie. They let me plug my recorder right into their board. Oh my God, it's heaven.
Well, we're wondering if we should do that. I heard you say that yesterday.
Yeah.
And I thought, I wonder if we can talk to Evan on April 4th. We're going to be for their CD release party.
Oh yeah.
And Parlor City said we went down and I talked to them last on Saturday night.
Yeah.
Parlor City or Evan Stock?
Parlor City. And they said that we can come in and interview people and do stuff as long as the Evan Stock Band said it's okay. They're fine with it.
Yeah, but
so
you should talk to them about plugging your recorder into the board.
Right into the board.
Well, that's what I heard you say that yesterday, and I thought, okay.
Well, these new recorders are great. They're like, 13 hours on a couple of double A's.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It's pretty amazing.
Well, I mean,
as long as you have the SD cards or the memory
the battery
in it.
Yeah. I was cleaning this morning and listening to Joe Rogan's podcast, and he was talking about somebody talked about technology and the way the world is working as a marble rolling down a funnel.
Yeah, I could see that.
And right now, and so the beginning, it took a while for it to make that circuit, but now we're getting down to the point where it's spinning like a motherfucker down towards the end, and that's why technology is just revving things up. It's every single day. I guarantee you, we got 2 GoPros.
Yeah,
I guarantee you, in a couple of years, it's going to be half the size of that goddamn GoPro, and that seems like that seems more cool than you.
Thank you to Todd's dad who donated the 2 GoPros to our future video episodes.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
That's awfully nice.
He definitely has.
So he saved his money on the house and had the teepee and
listen,
bought the GoPro.
you haven't even heard.
That is such a long, epic story. We probably need to go somewhere and have some beers.
Yeah,
and
I'm just trying to. I mean, just from the limited information that I have, I was making the assumption or the generalization based on the fact that you lived in a teepee for a good part of your life, or your dad lived in a teepee for a good part of your life. How did you live in the winter? Would he?
So that's a very common question. I appreciate that. It's a very, very good question.
Are you going to tell them about burning down your house?
Teepees are designed
right
where they have a small gap across the bottom, and so what it does is it pulls in fresh air,
right,
and that air runs up the inverted cone, so to speak,
sure,
and goes at the top with the heat that's being drawn out by the fire in the middle.
Right.
So in this, you're more worried.
Had the fire in the middle.
Absolutely. And so when you are in a teepee in the summertime, it's a hell of a lot worse than being in a teepee in the wintertime.
Right.
There's ambient heat coming off that fire all the time, and air is circulating up that cone all the time, so it's never cold because you have that ambient heat. So summertime,
this was just a real functioning.
You got it.
Teepee, not a wigwam.
No.
A fucking teepee.
You got it. And we didn't have any electricity in the beginning.
Size of this room here was
no. It was about 40 feet in diameter. It was a serious teepee. It was like back in the day. Yeah. I mean, he cut the birch trees down himself, skinned them all down.
I would be more concerned about privacy in a thing like that.
There's no privacy.
No privacy at all.
Nope. Lined up like cordwood on the floor. We're all sleeping next to each other.
Todd's dad just nailing it, banging it out.
Well, we had a discussion the other day about that, and I was like, I was really bummed to hear that. I was like kind of grossed out to hear that was taking place. And I think it was either my wife or your wife goes, "Why would you care if you don't even know about it was happening? You have to assume it was happening." I'm like, yeah, but we're all lined up next to each other, so hopefully they scooted me over a little bit and then got busy, so I had to worry about it.
So you guys were all on the floor,
all lined up on the floor. We had like foam on the floor, and then we had blankets and things, and then you laid on top of that, and then we had other stuff.
How many of you were there at that time?
5. my dad, my stepmom at the time, my little sister because she's just a baby, and then my brother and I.
There's just something epically awesome about that. But at the same time, I know how crazy winters can get, and you're roughly the same age as I am.
Mm-hmm.
I know how bad the winters were in Iowa when I was a kid versus to a few years ago. It was much more like it was this past year.
Yeah,
right.
Except more snow.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, this was very reminiscent of winters when we were children in Iowa.
But see, snow is an insulator. And so you get snow packed in places, it actually protects you from the wind. It actually becomes an insulator. And so it doesn't matter how bad. So if it's a low snow winter where air can flow on the teepee, okay, you're fine. If snow blows up on the sides of the teepee, it actually becomes kind of an insulator. And you have an inside layer. The teepee is on the outside over the poles.
Right.
On the inside is another layer of canvas that comes up the inside, and the air kind of runs between. So it's almost like you have, for lack of a better word, kind of like false walls on the inside.
Yeah. Does anything come up from the cone? Come in from the cone?
No. It only goes about 8 feet up on the inside.
Okay.
My dad found an old bath. It wasn't a bathtub. Sorry, it was an old metal barrel that somebody had turned into a wash tub.
Yeah.
And so they had cut leg holes in it and put a back on it and armrests. So you filled the bottom of the barrel up with warm water, and then you literally sat in it, and then you could scrub up.
So that
and
was
rinse off. That was our bathtub.
Through the top of the cone, did anything come in like rain? Or
you would have a little bit of wetness, but it would hit the fire, and so it would evaporate. It wouldn't be. And if it got really bad, really bad downpours, really bad heavy snow, you go outside and you close the flaps.
Yeah.
So you can do that part of it too.
The only thing I can think of when I think of teepees, have you ever driven through South Dakota?
No.
Okay, we drove through. We drove from Cedar Rapids, Iowa to Seattle, Washington, and back this last summer. So in the process, we drove all the way from one end of South Dakota to the other. Mm-hmm. The only way you can find a rest stop in South Dakota is to look for the teepee. So you got to find the teepee when you got a pee-pee. So every time that you brought up the word teepee, I was thinking the rest stops in South Dakota all have giant teepees in them.
Oh, okay.
At them. So
it's the Sioux Nation up in that area, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah.
No. So it was a.
So is your dad native?
No. But he liked the idea of living simply, living ecologically, kind of correct environment. It'd be very hippie green kind of guy.
Yeah.
He was on his way to Woodstock when he got extremely ill and sick. He was in the Bay Area when the whole thing was happening at Haight-Ashbury. So he's very much. He kind of embodies that, so to speak.
So you didn't have like a commune going on?
No. I think they probably would. I think that he had that in mind. Yeah. Because I went to an alternative grade school for a couple years of my life.
Yeah.
That were made up. It was made up of probably 15 to 16 kids, and we were from kindergarten to 12th grade.
Yeah.
And I don't know how he thought he was going to teach all those grades, but he had a bunch of parents who said, we don't want to be part of the normal school system. Can you do this for us? And so he did.
So it was happening way back then.
My mom was an old hippie too. So,
sweet.
But she didn't, we did not live a commune lifestyle. She became a little bit, she's, a hippie yet Catholic. So, very much, a little bit more uptight about things and dished out a good sense of guilt to all of our children.
Right.
All of her children, not our children. I've never slept with my mother. God, that's gross. But no.
Wow, Oedipus Rex.
Yeah. No. Anyway, but no, I mean, she just kind of is a free, easy, creative spirit, and that's where I get a lot of my creativity, I think, is from, my mom. So
I would concur. I get a lot of my creativity from my dad. Sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I kind of understand what you mean about the alternative lifestyle.
Well, and I think that's what he presented me with, and what he, blessed me with, for lack of a better way to put it, of being open-minded and thoughtful to more opinions than just my own. So when I start feeling really like this is the way things should be, I automatically have a reaction of, wait a second, I don't know everything, so maybe I'm not correct on this. Let's sit back and look at things. I'm opinionated for sure, but
yeah, I too am opinionated, but I also am one not to judge a book by its cover.
For sure.
Some of my best friends in the world, the first time that I met them, if I would have judged them by how they looked, I would have been like, "Holy crap! There's no way I'm hanging out with you.
Right?
You're fucking nuts." But some of these guys are the most intelligent, people I've ever had the pleasure of knowing in my life. And if I would have just looked at them and said, "Go away, you're a freak," yeah.
Yeah, I think how empty things would be if you hadn't had those opportunities.
Yeah, but I take that perspective, kind of the openness. It also makes me a bit vulnerable because I'm very trusting.
Yeah, it does.
And I've growing up, I've had to learn how to not get taken advantage of because of that stuff my mom taught me about being honest and trusting and getting to know people. It's cost me a little bit, but at the same time, I haven't let the dog biting me in the hand not made me want to pet another dog.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And I'm in the same boat as kind of when it comes to relationships. After my first marriage, which is where Junior came from, I had a handful of relationships that really hurt me badly.
Yeah.
And I had to come to the point where I realized, okay, that is who you are. You're going to be trusting and thoughtful and invested in somebody right away, and you're going to have to just adjust to the fact that you're going to get fucked over more often than not, unfortunately, and accept the fact that that's part of who you are. Right. And it made my life so much easier when I came to that realization when it came to relationships, that I think why my second marriage has been so long and so successful, because I came to the point, like you said, okay, I just need to be careful about how I do certain things and realize things about myself, accept those facts, and then I can move forward, and it's so much easier.
One of the biggest things in life that's helped me is realizing that I am in charge of my emotions. So often we as a people are, God, that guy pisses me off. That guy upsets me. Really, I'm choosing to be upset by that guy's actions.
Right.
And until someone actually realizes that, and that's just a simple explanation, but we as a people end up blaming ourselves or blaming other people for our own shortcomings. And if we took ownership of our own shortcomings and became responsible for our own actions, I think the world would be a much better place. You know what I'm saying? If someone was to tell me, "Oh, I could never do that," that's one of my pet peeves. I could never do that. Yes, you can. Just do it. That's kind of why I have my fingers in so many different pies and learn so many different things, because I know I can do anything I want if I just do it.
Right. You want to high five you on that one?
I actually heard you talking to your co-host.
This is
did you listen to that episode?
I listened to that episode. Yeah. I listened to you say that.
Kevin Snaps. Yeah, because Kevin is my best friend in the whole wide world, okay? He really is, and that's how I announce him on my show. I introduce him as my best friend, but he
kind of seemed like he's in a dark place, in a down...
Yeah, I mean, he's in a downward place, and he needs that... He needs to hear that stuff, because he doesn't always get it. You know, I look up to him in a lot of ways for things, and he also looks up to me. And we're kind of brothers in that respect. We make each other we're better friends because of it. But it's up to us as individuals to make up our own minds and do our own things. And we can do anything we want. You're doing this podcast because you want to, right?
Yeah.
No one told you, hey, you're never going to be able to be on the internet. You're never going to be able to do it. Would that have motivated you more if someone would have told you that? Or you've been like, God, maybe you're right. Puts that little voice in the back of your head saying, I could never do that. It used to do that to me. I was told no so many times. Oh, you could never be a good artist. Fuck you. I'm going to do it. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm going to fail a few times. But fucking Thomas Edison failed how many thousands of times before he made a fucking light bulb filament that worked?
Right.
It's like...
See, now I wish that was a recipe for success. I wish it was, because then I would tell my daughter, you're never going to be good at math. You're never going to be good at... You're never going to graduate college.
Yeah, and the thing is part of society, if we don't react in the way that society expects you to react by bitch slapping somebody back,
right,
then it comes back on you that you're a pussy.
Right,
and then you're weak. And that's where bullying comes in.
Yeah.
I mean, you're weak, then you become the victim. I think this anti-bullying stuff, it's a good idea in theory, but I don't think it works, because bullying, I hate to say it, at some point is nature, not human nature. It's just nature.
Right.
There's always going to be the alpha. There's always going to be the beta.
Right.
Okay. Not everybody can be the alpha.
But I think that I would agree with part of that, and he's going to be right along with you on what you just said. I think that you can be you can stand up for yourself. There can be a part of you that when bullying happens, you say, listen, I don't appreciate you doing that. Stop doing that. And if they don't, then you go and you talk to somebody about it. But you can do that in a way that it doesn't have to diminish you as a person.
Exactly. But when you're a child, do you have that skill set to do that so you're not...
You're right. It needs to be taught.
That's exactly what we've talked about in the past is that current school policies only have bullies and victims.
Right.
You only have those two things.
No,
and what
I think
you don't have. Well, you have. There's a whole circle of things that happen.
As a parent, looking at my kids and having my kids say to me, "Dad, if I did this, I would be in trouble." I kind of go through Gracie Kids. There's a Gracie Games, Gracie Kids, jiu-jitsu thing that we. That's why you saw that wrestling mat out. In our
I thought you guys were just like, big wrestling fans, or you kicked each other's ass because you guys are built like statues.
My singlet and my headset is in the other room.
Yeah.
Well, I did mount Todd at one point, and he thought I was. He got really freaked out, but I was wearing a nut cup. Not. Oh,
you would love it. I'm laying on my back. He lays on top of me.
I didn't lay on top of you.
I don't usually have reactions like that because shit like that doesn't really necessarily bother me. Something poked me in the belly button.
All of a sudden, he's just like, "What the?"
Okay, how did it poke you in the belly button? Oh, you were laying on your back. I'm sorry.
Yeah, and I straddled him. I got down on my knees.
And he straddled me. And so we were showing a jiu-jitsu move for our kids. And I had a reaction. And I said, what the fuck is that? And he goes, I'm wearing a cup. And I'm like, okay.
Yeah, relax, pal. If I had a boner.
What's funny though is I'm not a homophobic person, and I would think that it's you. So even if it was you, so you had an erection and you were getting even then, I'm not gay and I know you're not gay. So why I would have that reaction?
I have no idea why we went down this path.
It's really terrible.
Because we're talking about bullying. So bullying.
But I teach my kids this. This is one of the only things that I've come across that I truly agree with, which is the 3 T's. The Gracies teach this anti-bullying campaign. At my work, I get to look at YouTube quite a bit, and I was looking up bullying and anti-bullying because it's one of those. It's one of those things that, as a parent, as a father, it's one of those things you want to protect your child from.
It's so hard to do, though. How do you protect your child from bullying?
Well. And that's what I was looking for on YouTube, and I thought I came across the Gracie's anti-bullying campaign, and what they show is basically the 3 T's is what they go over. First they have free videos for parents to watch, and it's just for the parent.
Yeah.
This is how you train your kids in jiu-jitsu. And you want to make it fun. And you want to start out when it's fun, and you want to end when it's fun. You don't want to make them do it. You don't want to you don't want to
be like Cobra Kai.
Right.
Yeah.
You don't want to be like that. And so there's this whole video where you watch and why you don't want to say no. You don't ever want to say no.
Okay.
You might want to tell them to do this, and if they're not doing it right, you take their hand and you put it where it needs to go, and you're like, yes, and you just keep saying yes. It's positive affirmations.
Right.
I was watching this video going, this is not only an anti-bullying video, this is the way I want to be as a father. This is the way I want to be as a dad, because these kids these guys who are in their 20s now showing this video, they're talking about the love they have for their dad because that's the way their dad interacted with them their whole life. Well, from watching this, they talk about the 3 T's, which is the first step in any type of bullying situation is talk. So you tell the bully if the bully is or if the bully is calling you names, or if the bully is being physical with you. Hey, please don't do that. I don't like it. Please stop. So you got to talk to the bully. First T, talk. Right. The second one is tattle. So you go away and you tell a parent or you tell a teacher, hey, so-and-so is doing this to me. I've asked them to stop. I've already done the first step. I've asked them to stop. They're still doing it. Now, we're older. We've all been in school. We know how this works.
Oh, yeah.
When the teacher's around, the bullies are fine. When the teachers go away, the bullies are assholes.
Right.
And they'll say things. They won't physically do things because you can't prove that they've done anything to you verbally. So then the third thing is tackle. Yeah. Talk, tattle, tackle.
If the bully is being aggressive with you.
Yeah, if the bully just is nonstop. And they talk about bullies being cowards on this, and they show you these games, these silly games that you can roll around with your kids, and you're always the bad guy, and the kids get to at least put themselves in a comfortable, protective place physically, so where they're not getting hit and beat and hurt, physically hurt. So whether it's holding a bully down, whether the bully's on top of you and you wrap them up to where even if they're hitting you, it's not very effective at all. It's maybe 10% of what it could be. But the third one, tackle. My son, which we experienced this already. I get a phone call from home. I get a phone call at home, and it's a neighbor lady, and she goes, "You're." And she left a message on my phone, and it was late at night, so I didn't get to call her back that night. But she left a message saying, "Your older son hit my son in the face and gave him a black eye, and it's horrible."
Yeah. That sounds like the play that I'm in. Okay.
Yeah. Yes. So I go upstairs after I've listened to this on my phone. I go upstairs and I bring my son over. Now I want you to understand something. And I bring his brother and sister out, and I say, "Okay, you guys just stand there. I don't want you to say a word, not one word." And my wife's sitting in the chair, and I said, "Now if you tell me the truth the first time through, we're good. Okay, I'm not going to be mad at you. I just want to understand the situation."
Right.
So, did you in any way, shape, or form touch this other child? And he goes, "Yes, Dad, I did." I said, "Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So why did you do it? Did you do the first tee?" He goes, "Yes, Dad, I talked to him. I said, you're saying bad words to me. Please stop doing that. It's making me uncomfortable on the bus."
Yeah.
I said, okay. What about the second tee? Second tee is tattle. Did you tattle? He goes, "Yes, Dad, I tattled to the bus driver, and he moved him."
Yeah.
I said, "Well, wait a second. This doesn't make sense. If you tattle, then the bus driver moved the kid. How did the kid get the black eye?" Which I guess is horrible.
Right.
He goes, "Well, he didn't move him fast enough." And he just jumped right into the third tee, which was tackle.
Yeah.
And I said, "Okay, I'm not mad.
Yeah.
We've talked about this. And since we've talked about this, I need to support you."
Right.
You gave him a hug. You did a really good job.
Yeah, I didn't yell at him. So I called the child's mother who got the black eye, and I said, I wanted to let you know. And I kept trying her, and I didn't get. She wouldn't pick up for about a week. I couldn't get a hold of her for about a week.
Yeah. So a lot of time. One of the things at time.
Yeah.
In these situations, actually heals all wounds, or was that not the situation?
Well, it could have.
Okay.
It didn't really need to heal at all.
Yeah.
But I finally get a hold of her a week later, and I tell her, "Hey, I just want to let you know, I'm really sorry that your son got a black eye.
Yeah.
My children and I, we follow I'm trying to teach my kids a certain way of reacting to what's going on." And she goes, Oh, are you talking about the black eye? I said, of course I'm talking about the black eye. That's you called me and said my son gave your son a black eye. And she goes, "Oh no, I found out that your son didn't give my son a black eye. He said it was a different kid."
Oh.
So at that point, I wanted to say, "You know what, you dumb cunt?
Yeah.
You might want to have. I mean, I know it took me a week to get back to you.
Yeah.
Because I've been trying. But if I was the type of dad who was a total physical asshole,
right,
I might have taken a pound of flesh from my son."
Right.
Because of what you said.
Kind of like...
and just jumped to a conclusion.
Have you seen... I'm sure you've seen Christmas Story, right?
Sure.
Sure.
When Ralphie's mom, he says the F word, drops the F-bomb.
Right.
Calls... Where did you hear this word? Of course, he's heard it from his dad, but he blames it on his friend.
Right.
And then you could hear on the phone when he says, "You know where my son said? Do you know where he heard it? Your son." And then you hear, "What?
And the kid just screaming in the background.
That pound of flesh.
Yes.
Yes, I know exactly what you're talking
So I was very angry at this woman for not having told me this right away, because if I had been like that, I would have felt horrible.
Right.
How can you take that back as a father?
Right.
As a dad, you're supposed to be almost infallible in the eyes of your child, even though you know.
So did you yell at the lady? Or what happened?
I said, "Oh, okay."
So you didn't yell at her.
So I didn't yell at her. And I just, at that point, it's got to be kind of a life lesson. Whatever she says, take it with a grain of salt.
Right. Because your son actually did give the kid a black eye.
My son did say he reached up and slapped him. Because I said, okay, bud, come over here and show me exactly what you did. So he starts walking over to me. As he's walking to me, I'm thinking, this is the dumbest thing I've ever said. He's going to give me a black eye.
Yeah.
But he very gently, lovingly slaps my cheek.
Huh.
Not bad. Yeah, he was taking it easy on me, probably.
Yeah.
And my issue with bullying is probably not even the physical aspect of it, because I was physically and emotionally bullied most of my school career. But it's more of the words. And it's more of like
the emotional
tool of being like kind of like mocked or made to feel so small that you just want to. Because I mean, Junior was bullied at his school in. He's lived in Omaha for a little bit with his mom, and he said it was one of the worst experiences of his life. He could not wait to leave after 2 years of being in this junior high school.
Yeah,
and he came back and went to school at Linmar School, and because they have a huge anti-bullying program, he's just like, it's the greatest thing ever.
Yeah.
And for him, it was just being left alone. It wasn't like, stop all these terrible things happening. It's like, I just want to be able to do my own thing, you know? And we talked about, because I remember being bullied as a kid, and I was like, so do you get like that sick to the stomach kind of feel? And he goes, oh, that's the worst thing ever. Somebody's saying something to you and you feel sick to your stomach because you either don't know what to do or you don't have enough confidence within yourself to handle it.
Yeah.
So one of my biggest life lessons, and it is because I was bullied, and I actually am grateful to a point that I was bullied, but not everybody that's bullied reacts the same way that I do. I'm unique like everybody else, right? Well, for me, when I was bullied, it was Little League. I sucked. I suck at sports, okay? Always have, okay? I played for the Hiawatha Kids League, and I got picked on a lot, okay? So much so that I'm a pretty cool guy. I just internalized it all.
Right.
I gave myself an ulcer at 8 years old.
Oh, my gosh.
I was in pain. I was in the nurse's office all the time, partially because I didn't want to get bullied anymore, but partially because I was seriously in physical pain because I internalized all that bullshit that I was going through at the time. And I learned from that experience how to not internalize things anymore, how to find a more positive way to reconcile those situations, to take that very adverse situation that makes you very, very small and very, very tiny. It took me a long time to realize that I'm not small. I am not a small guy.
Right.
I am not small physically, and I'm not small mentally, and I have a lot of talent. Okay? It took me a long time to realize that, going back to the choices that I make, I can be anything I want to be. I can do anything I want to be. As Stuart Smalley says on Saturday Night Live, I'm good enough, I'm smart enough, and damn it, people like me. Okay?
Thank God he's a senator now, too.
No kidding.
Yeah.
Yeah. But that is the type of shit that I had to put together mentally to overcome the bullying. But if I would never have gone through that bullying, I would not be at that place in my life.
Correct.
They didn't teach us communication, the talk. I mean, if we can learn how to communicate with each other, I think society in general, if we learn to talk to each other, to get along, to reconcile our differences by looking at each other rather than belittling each other, I think that would make us a better society. But how do we do that? How do we get that in our schools? How do we get that in our household? I mean, how do we change our paradigm, our thinking, to that type of thinking? I mean, because really, we're a self-centered society. It's what's good for us. And a lot, which is scary, it scares the shit out of me, how many people in this world are sheep. Okay?
Right.
I am not a fan of the what's his name on the radio? That guy.
That one.
Yeah, that one. Sean Hannity and the Rush Limbaughs of the world. the people that follow, I mean, if you guys are fans, fuck you.
Nope.
I mean,
we're not. Sorry.
I mean, if you guys are fans, great.
No, we're not.
But the mindset of the people that tend to firmly believe the bullshit that they're selling.
Everything they say.
Every word they say is gold.
Right.
Okay. They're snake oil salesmen. Okay.
Right.
They're going to tell you anything that you think that you want to hear. And if you're going to believe it and not do the research and think for yourself, because thinking for yourself is hard. It's a very difficult thing to do. And if you don't want to be popular, because really the people that follow that line of thought tend to be the ones that want to be popular. They want to be in what they
cool
feel
crowd.
the cool crowd. But really, it's not the cool crowd. It's they want. I have a feeling that they want to be part of something bigger, but they don't want to do the work to get there. It's like a shortcut.
Yeah, and I've always said that Fox News, Hannity, Rush Limbaugh, it's easy. It makes life a lot easier. It's much easier to kind of have somebody feed you things that give you that can tap into your fears.
Yes.
And then, this is how I can believe. This is so much easier than me worrying about the environment or worrying about a child getting fed or some of these other things that are a little more convoluted.
Right.
It's a much simpler way to be thought.
But the thing is you get a charismatic person like Limbaugh, because Limbaugh, you have to admit, the guy's got some charisma.
Sure. Yeah,
I mean, you get that guy who's charismatic, or I am not a religious person at all. I got ordained to perform weddings, and I do that for friends.
Awesome.
But I grew up Methodist. My mom's Catholic. My dad's Methodist. I got I went through the Methodist confirmation, all that stuff. But I as I've gotten older, I realize history and religion and religious history and things that have happened with people killing people, and a lot of it has to do with, you don't believe what I believe, censored. Right. You're dead. You're out because you don't believe what I believe. Again, everybody should make up their own mind what they believe. Right. And if you believe one thing and you believe one thing, great. But I'm not going to hate you because you don't believe what I believe.
Right.
Okay? And that's something that hate is taught. And I think that the Hannitys and the Rush Limbaughs feed on that hate and fear.
Right.
Change, I think, is people's fear of change is ultimately what I think is really what's at the root of things. People don't want to be responsible for things that happen in the world. People don't want to take responsibility for their own actions. Remember the oil spill in the Gulf?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, you know how long it took them to actually get out there and start cleaning, doing stuff? It took them a really long time. You know why? Because everybody was trying to figure out who the fuck's fault it was. Whose fault was it? Whose fault is it?
Yeah, and if you went out and started cleaning, it must be your fault. You're the first one out there to clean.
Yeah, who cares whose fucking fault it is? Just get out there and clean it up, okay? The environment's getting destroyed, but it really wasn't as bad as we all put it. I mean, it was a bad thing. Bad thing, a lot of oil.
Oh, sure.
But oil's nature, okay? Oil is something you find in nature. Now, fracking, the stuff that they put in to get the natural gas, it's a whole nother ballgame.
All the chemicals, all the hydraulic.
whole nother can of worms. But what I'm saying is we wasted so much time trying to figure out whose fault it was. If we just would have said, we'll figure it out later, let's get this shit cleaned up and focus our resources on the relief of that rather than focusing on the cause right away, because you have to figure out the cause so you can fix the problem in the future so that shit doesn't happen again. But as a society, we're so quick to be like, okay, who did it? Who pulled the trigger? Whose fault is it?
Blame somebody.
Oh, and how many times are people found guilty just through the media?
Right.
Instead of through a court of law, instead of you're innocent until proven guilty, now it's you're guilty because I said you're guilty.
You're guilty because we found this maybe evidence, pseudo evidence, and that's brought the rise of personalities like Nancy Grace, who is like the bane on society. I think that's a whole nother can of worms.
Whole different can of worms.
I think the idea though is that if you approach the world in a conscientious, understanding way, you're opening yourself up to possibly having your mind changed or something being altered that you maybe are fearful and don't want to have happen. And so it's much easier to close those things down and just listen to a number of voices. I like the fact that I feel challenged. I like the fact that I'm like going, I have this idea in my head, and then somebody says something, and I go, oh, okay. Well, that's I'm open to debate about that. I can see how your point of view. I may never come to the point where I agree with you, but I can definitely be thoughtful enough to say, I know where you're coming from. I guess I
Right.
understand what you're thinking about and why you're thinking of it that way, and move on from that point.
If we all could think a little bit more openly when it comes to making decisions, not just looking for blame, but actually solving problems and not being afraid of that change. Some of the greatest things that have ever happened to me in my life have happened because of a change. Change is a constant in this world, but because something got better and something changed, being challenged by that change has made me a better person.
Well, and you're right, because we've talked about death on this show quite a bit too. Where I talk openly with my kids about I'm not going to be around. You're not going to be around very much but that's the ultimate change.
Yeah.
And I think that's a very, very good point, because that's the biggest problem is people don't want things to change, and guess what? It's almost like starting out with on the wrong foot.
People want to act like they have the power to control their environment.
Right.
If you're not in control, then people are freaked out.
But this life is nothing but change. It's all it is, all the time. From one moment to another, things change.
Once we stop worrying about what other people think of us and really start thinking about what we think of ourselves and how we can help each other. I mean, I'm not talking communism or socialism or anything like that. I'm just saying, you know what? You see some guy down the street whose car's broken down and you know how to fix it real quick, or has a flat tire and you have a second, let him borrow your jack. That's going to make that guy's day. You know, your neighbor, you haven't seen her in a while, and you know she likes Rice Krispie treats. Fucking bring her a tray of Rice Krispie treats and get to know your neighbor a little bit. You know, it's just little shit like that.
I like those, Chad.
You know,
I forgot how good Fruit Loop Rice Krispie treats are. We had some of those.
What?
Oh, fuck.
I've never had
Get rid of the Rice
Fruit Loop
Krispie treats. Get rid of the Rice Krispie out of the treats and replace it with Fruit Loops. Oh my God, it is crack on a plate.
We eat pretty healthy, so
Yeah,
I can definitely show that. I can work that into my diet, I think.
But going back to that the whole change and making our own choices and things. I mean, it's not. It just kind of drives me crazy how much people are like sheep, and in the regular media. I mean, even the regular media is very leaning. I like to get a lot of my news from Huffington Post, but they are so fucking liberal. It's crazy.
Yeah.
And I'm liberal. But damn, I mean, every other story on there is about, you know, their push right now is trying to get marijuana legalized, which, you know, if you look at Colorado, there's some people making a lot of money off of marijuana that's legal.
What do they call
Well, now that it's legalized, I mean, you almost don't even have to promote it to be legal because it's generating so much profit.
Well,
so
it's
much tax.
$600 million is what they're thinking 2014 is going to be for Colorado.
And think of how much money they're saving from people that are being in prison over a little bit of pot.
Right.
I don't smoke, okay? I know people that do. I don't. I don't ever partake in pot. I probably would if it was legal. I really probably would. But
Well, yeah, if it was as readily available as alcohol,
yeah.
Oh,
maybe you would have a pop brownie.
It actually is already as prevalent as alcohol. If I
could go down to the gas station,
right? If you go to the gas station, right? There's probably someone in the parking lot that has it. I mean, it's so in the media. It's in the movies. I mean, any movie that's like been a popular comedy, unless it's really highbrow, even the highbrow stuff, weed shows up.
Exactly.
I mean, it is so much part of our society that why not? And
I don't know if it was 60 Minutes, but they talked about people who overnight have become millionaires, and they're these really small little like middle class families, and it shows this guy going, my kids used to kind of tease me because I'd have a couple plants, and that's kind of I did for myself. And then I thought, I want to be able to sell this. So when it became legal here, I got my license, and it's him sitting in his living room with his daughter, his son, and his wife, and they're all sitting there smoking openly, just talking about how it's been so good for their family. It was a hobby for a while, and now it's their livelihood. And let me go take you to our warehouse, and he has his warehouse all set up, ready to go. And my first thought was, I want to be that someday. I want to do that.
I mean, initially it sounds terrible, and then you have to let it digest a second and go, why is that any different than a picture of an entire family reunion and everyone's drinking a beer?
Exactly. It's because just saying no is part of our childhood.
Yeah.
It ruins lives. It does all these horrible things.
When they did the Just Say No, was it really about weed, or was it about Coke and heroin, and it was really, for me, it was about that. I mean, I remember the commercials. Dad, I learned it by watching you. I learned it by watching you, Dad.
Right.
But wasn't that marijuana?
It was pot. It was pot or hash.
But the whole idea, though, is this is your brain on drugs. Remember the frying egg thing? This is your brain on drugs.
Right.
So it was drugs, everything encapsulated, including marijuana. And so you're right, though.
I'm from that mindset,
I think of the hard
too.
drug as well. But now I'm getting to the point where I hear so many people talking about it. It's so prevalent, like you said.
It's everywhere. I mean, I like I said, I don't, but I know people who do. I know people who have it in their house. I mean, I'm not going to tell you who, but I mean, I know it's like anything. Yeah. I mean, and it surprised the hell out of me when I found out some of my friends that smoke who they were. I mean, there's people that, are big. I mean,
sure. Well, we had this conversation a couple times in the podcast. I had with somebody recently where I said, I'm to the point now where if you would say your son's going to go to a party in high school and he's going to go get high with some friends and smoking marijuana, or your son's going to go for the first time, or your son's going to go to a party and he's going to drink a half a bottle of vodka.
I'd rather him get high.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Right. He's not going to die.
He's gonna eat a bag of chips. He can get fat. He's not going to kill somebody because he was high.
Or he's going to kill himself.
Right.
How many people do you know that drank a bottle of tequila their first night they got drunk and it just fucking ruins them? Or kids in college, who are frat hazing and they drink a bottle of booze. That's and they die.
Well, you can't plug a marijuana joint
into something. Plug.
You take a tampon, you soak it in vodka, and you shove it up your ass. It's called plugging.
You
cannot light a cigarette. You can't light a marijuana joint and shove it up your ass. You can try.
You probably could.
You could try it.
If you used, a tampon applicator, you could probably. You probably could.
You could probably get it up there.
Yeah.
It's going to smart for just a second.
I know people who run marijuana from Colorado to Chicago.
Yeah.
And that still scares me because that sounds very legally binding and could ruin lives. But again, the idea that you would think you would remove that dangerous aspect of it, if it became legalized, and it would be such a dangerous endeavor.
I have a sister. Okay, same dad, different mom, half sister, and she actually not pot, but meth. She had a problem with meth, and probably spent of my son's life. My son's 22. Of his life, probably 20 of those years in prison for shit that she's done. And her life now is completely turned around. She's out of prison. She was in the same prison that Martha Stewart was in, the same one that Piper from Orange is the New Black, the same prison that they were in.
Oh, really?
Great show, by the way.
Yeah, great show. Same one.
Really?
Exact same prison. Yeah. So she, not the one in the show that they're filming at, because that's closed, but the one that Piper was in, was in a different yard than my sister, but the same prison.
Huh.
And so, I know I grew up around people who had, a few plants in their house. And I had a pretty wide range of friends. I had friends, I grew up poor, middle class, more poor than anything. Mm-hmm. My mom worked 3 jobs just to support us. So you live in an apartment complex, people. Okay,
right.
The guy, 2 doors down that you can smell it in the hallway.
Exactly.
Okay, so I was around it growing up, and of course my mom's an old hippie, and she never really smoked around us, but I know that probably at one point she probably got high a few times.
Sure.
And had friends that did too, and so that whole counterculture, Cheech and Chong, all that stuff growing up, that stuff I knew about and I thought was funny. But as I got older, I got very uptight about that shit, especially in the 80s, early 90s, when the whole anti-drug campaigns, and, I was the poster child. I wasn't sad when I was a kid in high school. I was in the first, I was so uptight, I was so afraid that I was going to end up like my sister, or sisters, my older sister, that I just fucking stay away from all that shit, because I learned by watching them. And if a lot of people can learn by watching other people,
right,
and the mistakes they make, I'm not saying I've never made mistakes,
right,
but I haven't made those mistakes.
Athletics was it for me. I didn't drink. I didn't do anything because I was so into football and tennis and the things that I was doing athletic wise, I knew what a big deal it was, and they made it such a big deal that's what kept me from doing it. I drank for the first time heavily at the end of my senior year when all sports were over with, and that was the first time I again drank a bottle of Jack Daniels, my first time, and still can't smell it to this day. But again, I would rather have smoked a joint.
What, without it making you sick?
I can't smell Jack Daniels now without it making me nauseous.
Yukon Jack does that for me. Because we did, it was a New Year's Eve party. I was in my early 20s. I don't even think I was legal yet. And having a kid at a young age, and you're an adult, but you can't drink. It's kind of weird. But we could still get alcohol. But one year we were beers, and we were wine coolers, and we were just all really drunk. And then some jackass brought in a bottle of Yukon Jack. Oh, it's good. Drink it. One shot, all of us were puking. It was like drinking Epicac syrup. I mean, it was just, and that was the end of it for me. So after that drinking experience, I don't get drinking at all. The only time I have a beer really is St. Patrick's Day. That's the only time I drink whiskey is St. Patrick's Day, or when I'm around Chuck in general. Chuck is a man who can drink.
He brings it out in all of us.
Yes, and with you guys drinking, please, drink all you want. The only beer I enjoy is Guinness, and I enjoy it so rarely that I don't. It's special when I have it.
Sure. Well, and I'm one of those guys that as soon as it's legal, marijuana, I'm all over it. Yeah. I would much rather eat part of a brownie and enjoy that high, or smoke a joint and enjoy that high, than I would get hammered on alcohol.
When I was in the Army in AIT, I was at Fort Gordon, Georgia. I don't smoke. I've never, not even cigarettes. Okay. And I tried chewing tobacco. Okay, for the first time in AIT. Okay, do you guys chew, or did you?
No, but I had a similar experience. I'm assuming. Go ahead.
Okay, well, I didn't throw up, but I did not realize just how fucking buzzed you get off of a little pinch of Red Man between your cheek and gum. Holy crap! I was more buzzed off dizzy. That little pinch than I was when I drank 2 beers. It's a different kind of buzz, though. But it was like electricity.
That's a good way to describe it. It's like electricity.
It's like, have you ever been, put your tongue on a battery and you kind of felt the vibration? It's kind of like that. I mean, that's the only way I can explain it.
I totally agree. My brother came. He played college football, and when they would be watching film and things like that, they would just all chew the whole entire time. So the coaches would bring in entire logs and throw it to one player. So here you go, because they sat around and watched film all day long for football. And so he came back and worked out with me one day, and we're lifting together. He's like, "Hey, you want to chew with me while we lift?" And I was like, "Why? How do you chew?" And he's like, same thing. He just gave me a pinch of it. And so he goes, at one point probably half an hour later, he was like, is there any flavor left in that anymore? And I go, "No." He's like, "Oh shit, you spit it out." I'm like, "Why?" And he goes, "Well, when you get to the end of the flavor, you've pretty much drained it of everything, and you've probably got a pretty good dose of nicotine." And I got sick and threw up. I had the worst splitting headache I've ever had in my entire life. After I had it. And from that point on, I was done. It was the same thing as coughing up a cigarette for the first time.
I was
done.
I was like in 3rd grade, and my mom made me try a cigarette, and that was it for me. She's like, "Here you go. You want to smoke so bad?" Because I used to have the candy cigarettes, because you could the gum, you'd blow out this little powdered sugar at the end. I wanted to be cool, because that's what being cool was, is smoking. And my mom seriously gave me a cigarette. She goes, "Here, smoke."
I was in 2nd grade, same thing.
Yeah. And it killed me on that too. Mm-hmm. So
my dad gave me a Skull Bandit when I was younger, but he smoked.
And those are those little pockets, right? It's not the open chew, or is it open chew?
No, Skull Bandit's like
it's like a packet. It's a small packet,
right?
And so you don't get chewing tobacco all over your teeth and it's gross. In between your teeth. But my dad smoked unfiltered Camels from the moment before I was born. Yeah, and he still smokes that to this day. Well, I don't know if he still smokes it to this day, because no, he does.
Oh, he does.
Yes,
okay.
He does.
I just don't see him doing it.
I think he actually switched to something that was cheaper to smoke because cigarettes have gotten so expensive. But when I had my first cigarette at 17 or 18 with these girls from a bar, these girls were like, "Hey, you want to smoke?" Just like the other night, just like last night when those girls were like, "Hey, you want to smoke?"
She asked me first too. I was like, "Oh, no, I'm good, thanks."
Yeah, but when I was asked when I was 18, I was like, "Sure," because I'm cool.
Yeah,
I threw that cigarette in my mouth, I lit it up, is like mother's milk. Because my father had smoked and I had been around secondhand smoke my whole life, it didn't bother me at all.
Yeah, it's so hard for me to imagine. I'm trying to think of you with a cigarette between your fingers and you smoking, and I just can't. I just can't see it.
I just can't hold a cigarette without looking gay.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, if you're a smoker, you think you look cool. If you're not a smoker, you're like.
And I don't mean that as a negative way. I mean, just holding it feminine. I mean,
right.
Well,
you should see Matthew McConaughey
there's
in
a lot of different
True
ways.
Detective.
Yeah.
He smokes the whole entire show, chain smokes the whole entire show. And I wonder if he's a smoker in real life because he does a great acting job.
Yeah.
But he holds it like back in the day when he would a joint. And so that's the whole show is
kind
like
of the
that
cowboy.
Too. There you go. Hold it from the wind kind of thing.
Yeah. I know what you're talking about.
Get the wind off the coals.
Hey, we were talking about the anti-bullying thing and what you did. You got into sports to get away from it and all that stuff.
No, what I did was thank you for bringing that back up. Is that I got to a point where I came to a realization that what other people were saying and doing, I had a choice to decide how I was going to let that affect me.
Right.
It really helped me when I got divorced the first time. The only time. First time. The only time
the first time.
Divorced, yeah. The one and last time was I had a therapist tell me, what you need to start thinking to yourself, and I'm going to give you a mantra. And I said, okay. She goes, what she says. Here's your mantra. What she says, thinks, and does is no longer any of your business at all. And I remember looking at her, and she goes, "It's kind of painful, isn't it?" I'm like, "Yeah." It hits me like somebody punched me in the stomach.
Yeah.
She goes, "But that is what you need to start saying to yourself over and over again." And later on, I was thinking, "Well, that's what I do with my childhood. Well, this asshole doesn't mean anything. It doesn't mean anything to me. Why am I going to let his words affect me?"
Right.
And that's ultimately what it comes back to for bowling. But it's something that you have to be taught. And so, I mean, I work hard myself at making sure my kids realize that they're good people and they're thoughtful, caring, loving individuals. And if somebody else is going to say something mean to them, it doesn't mean jack shit.
Right.
It's how you feel about yourself that matters.
Well, you were talking about maybe having a sporting. Back in the day, people had a few different avenues to deal with bullying.
Yeah.
You could either be bullied and beat up and be like that scourge and the geek and run home from school and always be bullied. You could play that part, or you could get into sports. But there was very limited things that you could go down.
I got bullied when I was in sports. I got bullied because I sucked at the sport and it was bringing the team down because a ball would be hit toward me and I would miss it, and then everybody on the team was pissed off at me. And then you're like
the kid from Meet the Robinsons. Have you seen that?
Yeah.
That cartoon.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah. So I mean, it's kind of like that. I mean, I would get, picked on because I sucked, and then I wrestled in high school and I never won. I was absolutely horrible, and I ended up dropping. That's why I got into acting, is because I sucked so bad at wrestling that there's a play. I'm going to go do that. I did that, and then I excelled at that. And that kind of helped bring my self-worth up.
Did you feel good about trying the sports, though?
I did feel good about trying, but at some point when everybody else on the team is giving you shit because you suck so much, that it's not just one bully, it's several. And there were guys on the team that were very conscientious and were trying to help me get better. But I was in the mindset that I couldn't get better. And I actually, in basic training at Fort Jackson, I was recycled and went back through and had to go through basic training basically twice, and because I couldn't pass my push-ups. And that was all completely a mental block. That was me telling myself I couldn't do that. Was it 52 push-ups that you have to do in 2 minutes or
something like
whatever
that,
to get out of basic training? I couldn't do it. There's no way I could do it. In fact, I was tempted. I was actually told that if I gave the sergeant, the cadre sergeant, that $50, that he was going to be scoring my push-up test. That would be how I could graduate basic training. But I had the integrity not to pay that sergeant my $50, and I just took it and was recycled and went through basic training all over again. And with that second group that I went through, because they saw me as weak, they gave me a lot of shit too. And I overcame that and ended up being the squad leader and taking what I learned the first time, because I'd already gone through all the shit that they went through. I actually went there when they were going through their shock and awe first week, where they were getting fucked with, burnt
which
every
shouldn't
5
have
minutes.
phased you, because you'd already seen it.
I'd seen it. I'd been there. I was like, hey, this is cool. But they saw, because they found out that I was recycled. I'm like, yeah, I was recycled, but I've already been here. I've done this. So this is what we're going to do.
And see, Junior would think you have the biggest set of balls in the world because his biggest fear
was being recycled.
Like it was like the end. He's like he wasn't sure if he would be able to make it. Period.
Yeah, no.
If he was recycled
I went
again.
through
So
it
that's
twice.
awesome.
I went through it twice, and it's again one of those things that made me a better person. I think because I saw guys that would drop out after the first week of basic training, and then they don't get to let them go. They don't let them go home. They have to sit there and they do like office details and shit work until they decide to let them go home. Mm-hmm. You saw that, I'm sure.
Well, yeah, we had that, and we had nutcases that would jerk off right at the drill sergeant, and they failure to adapt.
We had
and I wouldn't see them again.
We'd have nutcases that wouldn't bathe, they wouldn't shower, and then a couple guys decided to do a blanket party.
Yeah,
and took care of that problem.
There's motivation right there.
It caused more problems than it was worth. But I did not partake in that blanket party. But you know what? You've seen Full Metal Jacket.
Sure.
Except for they took him in the shower and they used the Comet and toilet brushes and rubbed him raw. Oh. And so that was the worst. One of the worst things I've ever seen.
But good for you with having the wherewithal to push yourself to go through it a second time. It would have been a very easy thing to go home.
I don't give up very easy. But also something that happened in basic training is I was where did you go to basic?
Fort Benning,
Fort
Georgia.
Benning. Okay,
yeah.
I went to Fort Jackson, and when you march to the range, because you have to march to the range,
sure.
and it's probably about a 5-mile march from the barracks to the range. We were marching one day, and I was the rear road guard. So the road guards, their job is to make sure the traffic stops so you can the troops can keep marching. Okay,
right.
So we would switch positions, but at that time I was the rear road guard, and one of the things that you never ever do, because we're marching with our M16s, is drop your weapon. Okay, you never ever drop your weapon. Well, a guy in front of me, he was in the far left hand side. He was marching in front of me, drops his weapon. And the drill sergeant absolutely freaks out. And the guy, I watched him. He did a face plant and slid down the side of a hill. The drill sergeant's like, "Holy crap!"
He pass out?
Well,
sorry, I'm sorry.
Yeah, it gets better. He goes face first down a hill, and the drill sergeant's freaking out because somebody dropped their M16. And I fell out to go help this guy. And the drill sergeant, myself, and another guy tried to bring this guy back to life. He had an aneurysm.
Oh, wow.
So a guy died in my arms in basic training. So that my friend getting shot in the face happened way after that. But the guy, dying in my arms, one of the most sick, disgusting things you can ever hear is the sound of your breath going into someone else's lungs. And it's like the weirdest thing. It's like blowing into, those big balloons that you used to get at Kmart that have the punching bag.
Yes.
That sound that when you blow into it, it's like kind of a sound. Trying to give a guy mouth-to-mouth resuscitation who's dead. I mean, just dead. Was just
and you didn't know. You were just trying to revive him. We were trying
to revive him.
Sure.
Myself, the drill sergeant, and the other road guard were there. And the rest of the troops were just marched to the range. They kept going. And, the drill sergeant's radioing, because this is pre-cell phones. He's radioing back to get an ambulance. And it took probably 20 minutes before the ambulance came. And we're taking turns trying to give this guy mouth-to-mouth, which we just learned a couple weeks before in training, just basic medical shit that they teach you. This is what happens in the field. This is how you put on a tourniquet. This is how you do mouth-to-mouth. And this guy died right there in our arms. And so that's another one of those things that kind of made me who I am, and that happened when I was recycled in basic training. You guys are bringing out the worst in me.
Yeah,
this is the good shit. No, you're right. This is what makes you who you are. This is why it's important.
It's one of those stories that I don't even think I've told on the Can Man show. So I mean, it's pretty crazy. The kind of shit that kind of makes you question your mortality. You know how you're open with your kids with mortality? I am as well. I've come to grips with it a long time ago that we're only here for a limited time. And it's what we do with our lives in that time that we're here.
Absolutely.
That makes us live forever. I mean, if you want to be known for something, you want to live on forever, sure, you might be in heaven or whatever you're going to be after you die. Okay, whatever your belief is. But in this world, on this plane of existence to live forever, you've got to leave your mark.
Right.
And that's how you live your life and the things you do in your life and the things that you do to help other people that are going to help them remember you in this world. You know, that is how you live forever in this plane of existence.
I agree. And we've talked a lot about the new TV show Cosmos that's come on with Neil deGrasse Tyson.
I have not watched it yet.
It's pretty awesome. And I was a big fan of the Carl Sagan one when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I had lots of friends I've talked to about it. They said, oh, but man, it's just so, they talk about how immense things are and we're so small. And I was like, and this goes back to my childhood. You have to turn that around.
Right.
You have to realize how lucky you are. You are here at this moment, at this time, with this little spark of life in you that you get about 100 years to enjoy, maybe.
If you're lucky.
If you're lucky, in this immense, unfathomable universe that is going on around us. Think about how awesome that is. And you have a chance to do something during that time period.
That is, I really like how you put a positive spin on things. It's refreshing because that, along with the blame game, is that a lot of people fall on negativity so easily. I mean, it drives me crazy. Yes, I can be negative. Okay, I really can, but it drives me crazy when people go through life with such a negative spin on things. I mean, I'd never be able to do that. I'll never be able to do that. Whatever, you've already decided. You know,
right.
You know, he's so fat. You know, who cares that I'm fat? Okay, I care that I'm fat, but why do you care? They're blaming because they see it's easier to make fun of somebody.
Absolutely.
And this kind of goes back to bullying. It's easier to make fun of somebody and be negative towards them, even if you are ribbing them a little bit. If you come back from that ribbing, say I'm the one ribbing you, right? Giving you shit about, you know, your hat, whatever. And you're like, all in how you take it. Your perception is that I'm just giving you a hard time.
Right.
And you're like, oh, he just likes my hat. He's just picking on me. Some people actually take that very personally and they're like, throw away the hat. My father-in-law, for example, we're on a cruise. My in-laws I've been very lucky and they take care of us. And so we were on this cruise, right? Actually, I think it was the same cruise where I met that Star Wars guy. The guy, Nick Malley's his name. Anyway, my father-in-law was on the cruise ship. It's like a big mall in the middle, right? It's got like, have you ever been on a cruise?
Never.
I've been on one.
Okay.
Yeah.
Royal Caribbean.
Royal Caribbean.
Big ship, little ship?
Pretty big ship. I would.
Like the Freedom of the Seas, the Waste of the Seas.
I can't remember. I was 18,
a big one.
I was 18 at the time. Yeah.
So anyway, they got these big monster ships. Okay, they're like cities that float in the water.
Oh yeah.
In the middle's like this promenade, which is basically looks like Westdale Mall in its prime. When Westdale Mall was nice on the inside, with shops on each side,
Sure.
little food things. Well, every night they'll have different things on sale in the middle of it's like sidewalk sales at the mall. Okay. So they have this night where all the watches they put out there are $10. Okay, so he finds this digital watch that he's enthralled with and has to get. Okay, but it's huge. It's fucking massive. Okay. And I gave him shit after he bought it because he had to buy it. How big it was.
Did it have a dolphin on it?
No, it didn't have a dolphin.
Okay.
It was just a big black thing. It looked like one of Chuck's gauntlets only made of rubber. You know?
Okay.
You know, his big watch bands, but it's like huge. And
Chuck's gauntlets.
That's kind of what they're like. You know what I mean? They're like, oh, you know.
They're manly.
They're manly.
Viking.
Yeah, leather's by Preston. But, you know, this thing here is massive. So I'm giving him, are you going to stop bullets with that? You know, like the whole Wonder Woman thing.
That's awesome.
So needless to say, I ended up with the watch because he was so self-conscious about it because I gave him shit about it.
Oh.
And I'm like, Steve, I'm giving you shit because I love you.
Right, yeah.
You know, so.
But he couldn't get past that.
He couldn't get past that.
Well,
so.
I don't want to pull too much about it. Is he a judgmental guy? Does he look at other people and judge a lot of people around him a lot? Or
I don't think he does.
Oh.
I don't think he does. He's actually a pretty, well, he might. He's it's a whole nother can of worms that I don't need to open. But I
just know people who I know that are judgmental of other people are very concerned about their image.
Yeah, no,
it's a big projection kind of thing.
He is so laid back and cool. He is just the most awesome father-in-law in the world. I've never had another one like him, and I'm not planning on having one other one. But it's just the way he was, and he just kind of took it kind of weird. So anytime there's something I want in his house, I tell him, hey, that hat looks like shit on you.
Some fucked up candelabra you got over there, buddy. Is that solid silver? That's ugly as shit.
You need a new Blu-ray player. That one's a piece of shit.
Hey, listen, Chad, I'm going to stop us there and say this has been fantastic.
I loved having him on.
Absolutely fantastic.
I wanted to talk about Comic-Con and all this other stuff.
Another podcast. Maybe we can be on his show and we can talk about Comic-Con.
Yeah. We're actually going to Dragon Con, I think.
What's Dragon Con?
Oh, dude, I'm not going to open up the can of worms.
Okay.
Assume it's pretty awesome.
We'll either be on your podcast or we'll have you back.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Dragon Con. Oh,
Dragon Con.
Wow.
If it's got hot chicks like Comic-Con, I'm in.
Just picture like a million people in cosplay outfits.
Before we get to the end of the podcast, I wanted to throw in, these are some recordings that we made, some interviews from the Cedar Rapids St. Paddy's Day Parade. We talked to a few people that had floats in the parade, and we also went around and asked a few questions to some patrons at some bars. So I hope you enjoy that.
All right, we're here with Cindy Tippett, and one of the floats in this year's St. Paddy's Day Parade is the
Moose.
So what is the Moose?
It is a fraternal organization that we have here in Cedar Rapids. There's several across the nation. Our main support is that we support a childhood city outside of Chicago, Illinois, where underprivileged children can go there and get safe confinement. They go to school there. We also support a retirement community outside of Lakeland, Florida, down on the St. James River, which you can go there after you've been a Moose member for 10 years.
Oh, wow.
And you live free of charge down there. They pay all your medical, everything.
That's wonderful. Where's your lodge located here in Cedar Rapids?
It is out off of West Post Road, southwest.
Fantastic.
And if somebody wanted to donate money to this, is there a website, or how would they contact you over the internet?
We have a national website that is www.mooseintl.org.
Okay.
And there's the donation stuff there. There's a link you can click there, or you can just actually stop out to our lodge and out off the West Post Road, and they will also take anything, donations, whatever. You can become a member.
Okay.
You pay yearly dues. Most of your yearly dues goes to support both of the retirement and the Moose Heart City.
Fantastic.
Yeah, it sounds like a wonderful organization.
It's kind of like a charter school in Chicago, kind of, but it's like almost like a boarding school at the same time, right?
Yep.
Okay. And what was the actual name of the school?
Moose Heart.
Moose Heart. Okay.
They just recently, in Illinois, won their state championship for their division this year.
For what sport?
Basketball.
Oh, basketball. Very nice.
Great.
That's fantastic.
Well, thank you, Cindy,
Thank you,
very
Cindy.
much.
Thank you. You're welcome.
We enjoyed it.
All right, we're here with Susan Kula of the Haggis. Everyone, when we were walking by, we saw Haggis, and I immediately thought of
So
the
I married
movie
an axe murderer.
So I Married an Axe Murderer. Have you ever seen that movie?
I have not seen the movie.
If you haven't seen the movie, if you like Irish anything, Scottish.
Scottish.
I apologize.
Yeah.
Maybe this isn't a good venue then. Anyway, Haggis, the Hawkeye Area Grand Celtic Isle Society.
Gaelic.
Gaelic Isle Society.
What did I say?
Celtic.
Gaelic.
Okay.
So what is this? Tell us about it.
We were established in 1990 by a group of folks who wanted to promote Scottish culture in the area. And so we've started with that tradition and that goal in mind. And every year we do a lot of different events that have to deal with Scottish culture. So we do a Burns supper every year in January, and then every year we do a Celtic Fest where we have Highland games and Celtic food.
Fun. Like the stone toss and all that kind of stuff?
Yeah,
Oh,
exactly.
Is it a caber toss?
Caber toss.
Yeah.
This is the big pole.
The pole thing.
Cool.
It's right down our alley with CrossFit.
It is.
We could have a whole bunch of CrossFit people come out and do that.
Anyone's welcome to come and participate.
Awesome. And do you guys have a website?
We do. It's haggisiowa.com.
Okay, haggisiowa.com. Fantastic.
So people can get on. Yeah, people can get on the website, see when your next thing is.
That's right.
And participate and donate.
Yeah, this year Celtic Fest is June 29th at Squaw Creek Park. We're trying a new location this year and a new date. So
Squaw Creek's a great place to do it.
Yeah.
I think you guys will love it out there. So
Yeah.
fantastic. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate
thanks.
it.
Thank you.
Have a good time today.
Yeah, you too.
Today we are here with
Katie.
Katie, and she works at the Blue Strawberry. Today is the 39th annual St. Paddy's Day Parade, and we're going to be walking around interviewing people. And Katie, is our first recipient of these questions, so we're going to roll with this.
Did you make our coffee this morning? Did you do it, or did somebody else do it?
I did not. I mean, I might have ground the coffee beans, but that's
okay. It was fantastic. Good job grinding.
Thank you.
Blue Strawberry, Cedar Rapids, Iowa. All right, so it's early in the morning. You're not 21 yet, so you're not in what's it called? Inebriated. Thank you. See? All right. So these should be some pretty honest questions. All right, first one. Besides drinking, what is your favorite St. Paddy's Day ritual?
Anything mint, I think. Because like everything is mint flavored, you know, like
a shamrock
makes
shake?
it green. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. What would you be willing to do to earn beads?
Turn beads. Oh man, I don't know. I've never really thought about it. I feel like it depends on what substance I'm on to.
That's awesome.
All right. Who do you think is more willing to call in sick to work on St. Paddy's Day? Men or women?
On St. Paddy's Day or the day after?
Oh, that's a good question.
Oh, great question.
Let's go with on St. Paddy's Day first.
I think men.
Okay, and who do you think's willing to call in sick after St. Paddy's Day?
I think men.
Oh, so men for both. Okay.
How about if you had to have a significant other to be Irish or to be a drinker, what would it be? Which would you pick? Or both?
Well, yeah, one of them I feel like incorporates the other. So.
Oh, good call.
Yeah.
Are you Irish?
I'm not. I'm Czechoslovakian.
You're Czech.
There you go.
You have red hair and green eyes, so I thought maybe you were.
No.
Okay. Now, your significant other, if you have one, or a past one, what is the most leprechaun aspect of your significant
Or if they don't
other?
have any leprechaun aspect.
Yeah, I mean, you can go totally G-rated. Their anger is very leprechaun, very small, or very small fuse. You could go with feet.
I'm gonna go out on a limb and say the money, the gold. Gold, yeah, right?
That was
about that.
Yeah. All right.
Katie.
Well, thank you very much, Katie, for being our first interview of the day.
Yeah.
Have a great day, and hopefully you'll be able to go out with your friends later on and enjoy St. Paddy's Day.
For sure. It was good talking to you guys.
Thanks.
Bye. All right, it's Matt and Todd. We're at Stella's Bar right now with not so inebriated people. And what's your name? Jeff. I got some questions for you, Jeff. Besides drinking, what is your favorite St. Paddy's Day ritual?
Biking.
Biking. Ooh, very nice. All right. What would you be willing to do to earn beads?
What isn't he willing to do?
You know,
He's got a kilt on.
Oh!
That's not a skirt.
And it's a little cold today, so you do have something on under it,
It's a
right?
little breezy. It's a little breezy today.
The bike shorts are for. Throw those on underneath.
All right. Who do you think is more willing to call in sick on St. Paddy's Day? Men or women?
Women.
Women. Who do you think is more willing to call in sick to work the day after St. Paddy's Day?
Yeah,
Men or women?
Men.
Men? All right.
His birthday is the day after St. Paddy's Day, so he celebrates 2 days in a row.
Nice. That's fantastic. How about what is the most leprechaun aspect to your significant other? Be gentle.
Brad's his big ear.
She's kind of a jolly little elf.
Jolly little elf.
Leprechaun.
And then the last one we had was being Irish. Being Irish or being a drinker is the most important aspect of a relationship. And you can say both.
Being an Irish drinker.
Irish drinker.
Irish drinker.
An Irish drinker. That's a good answer.
All right. Well, thank you guys for answering some questions for us today, and enjoy St. Paddy's Day.
Well, hey, if you have enjoyed our podcast, please go to our website, which is theprimalscream.org. While you're there, you can follow us on Facebook. Please like us on that. Follow us on Twitter. We do a lot of tweeting. We're big tweeters. And you can follow us on Stitcher and iTunes to download the podcast if you have an Android or an iPhone, either one. I try to get on Pinterest quite a bit and pin sweet fucking workouts and motorcycles and shit that I like. But that's the best way to follow us.
And you talked about YouTube?
No, but you brought it up. I was about ready to say YouTube, and you cut me off.
I half listen to what you say, and then I try to pick up on whatever you might have missed, so that you can feel good about yourself.
Feel the love. I half listen to the things you say.
We're brothers.
I know, from another mother.
Brothers don't shake hands.
The brothers hug. Exactly.
Yeah.
But yes, absolutely. On YouTube, you can follow us on YouTube, and very soon you will be able to watch an actual video of what we do when we're in our podcast room. It'll be pretty fantastic. So we're excited about that.
Podcast room. I'd actually call this more of a studio, guys.
The studio.
Okay. I'm sorry.
The studio.
I like the studio.
And Chad Canfield, again, when is the play?
Theatre of Cedar Rapids, you go to theatrecr.org, and it's weird spelling of theater, but it opens on April 25th, I think, and runs through the middle of May.
And your character's name is?
Alan something or other.
Is it Quartermain?
No, it's not Quartermain.
All right.
But you could also check out my podcast, The Can Man Show, also on Stitcher, also on iTunes, thecanmanshow.com or canmanshow.com, or actually there's a couple of Easter egg ways you can get there too. I used to have a podcast called Good Morning Campers, but now that redirects to canmanshow.com.
Good Morning Campers.
Tipourhats.com, squawk.com. That all heads back to thecanmanshow.com. So
very cool.
Yeah, so not to plug my
plug the shit out of it, dude. That's what we're all about. No, we're having a great time.
We love advertising and talking about local businesses and local
absolutely and unique situations like you do. That's
entertaining
fantastic
stuff. So thank you very much for coming on today.
Hey, thanks for having me, guys.
Totally
I really appreciate
enjoyed it. Well, I'm Matt.
I'm Todd.
And we'll see you later.
And I'm Chad.
Adios.
And I interrupted your ending. So see ya.
It's awesome. Good night.